Hare Krishna. All glories to Ayendra Prabhu, all glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakura, and all the previous acharyas back to Lord Rama, Lord Sri Krishna. All glories to Lord Nityananda, Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. All glories to the assembled devotees, and yes, that includes you and you. Sunday is my fun day. The Flat Earth Map and Sri Radha's True Glories versus all the infinite stupid ideologies within and outside of Krishna consciousness, trying to keep us from her. Friends, foes, and hoes, and why they will all continue to oppose her mission unless they tune in and listen. The wanker world we live in and why. How to upgrade in the shade to bring in the world she once made. Welcome, Katarina and Robin Cloud. Hare Krishna. If you guys could let me know that you could hear me all right with a thumbs up, that would be great. And then I will continue with the chaos that I have made. So, we're going to cover all the stupid, ridiculous, infinite, idiotic ideologies that flood this planet, both within and outside of Krishna consciousness. Wonderful, Ravan, thank you. Hare Krishna. And we're going to go into all the comical aspects of them. We're going to cover their loopholes. We're going to cover exactly where they stop short. And this will be a good video for people who want to see every other single ideology disproven solidly and thrown under the water to help boost your faith in Krishna consciousness specifically and the real teachings of Krishna consciousness beyond all the waters of erroneous teachings within Krishna consciousness also. So this way you guys can actually see the proof and verification in your own lives firsthand and directly, and it will you'll start looking at every other ideology as very foolish, more so than ever before, and you will start to see the comedy, the intensive and quite ridiculous loopholes, and also areas of other ideologies where they stop short, where they do not have answers for things, which should have answers, and which the answers of which are quite commonsensical and not very complicated. So, for anybody who doesn't know yet, the Flat Earth Map and Sri Radha's True Glories being spread, they will be spread together. They are very much connected, both of these things together. One will be going along with the other and vice versa. And the natural reason for this is because when people take to the Vedas, once the Flat Earth Map becomes mainstream, they'll see the Vedas have the most accurate information on it. And then they will also see that the Vedas have the most accurate information on Sri Radha. And then they will also see the connection between her glories and the Flat Earth Map and why this is important regarding us understanding her glories. So first we're going to go into agnosticism. We're going to cover why agnosticism, where skepticism itself is what they treat as their God and their highest thing. So, in other words, the stupidity of agnosticism these days means basically not knowing 100% one way or the other. You'll find in the case of the vast majority of agnostics that they adhere to an ideology where they actually like the idea, subconsciously or consciously, of not being able to know things in full depth or in full truth, no matter what. So no matter what information they get about things, no matter how much detail they receive, no matter how much solid proof they receive on anything, they adhere to treating their intellectual skepticism in and of itself as the superior principle. And this is the thing that they don't recognize. So it's very important to bring this up to agnostics and people who adhere to this ideology, and who are very insistent on it, even once they've been presented with detailed information that disproves their agnostic constant skepticism. So in other words, you'll find that these individuals who adhere to this ideology, I know many of them, and agnosticism is becoming more popular nowadays, even more popular than atheism, is because what it is they'll have this idea towards the supreme absolute truth that is basically, okay, there must be a supreme absolute truth, but it's literally impossible for any relative being or any limited being to ever understand that fully absolute truth in full. Therefore, I'm going to stick with agnosticism simply because even if I accept the divine, there's no way I can ever personally fully ever know the full details of the divine. That's agnosticism in essence. And this agnosticism is actually spilled over into Krishna consciousness. So there's many Krishna devotees actually who are behaving agnostically without even recognizing it. So buying into the idea that because you're a living entity, you can never understand everything about Radha and Krishna in full detail that ideology is also a form of agnosticism, because you can't. But you understand everything about them in full detail beyond your intellect. That's the thing. So you won't ever understand everything about them with the intellect. No, of course you won't, because the intellect is limited. It's temporary. It comes into existence and leaves existence. Okay? But your consciousness never does come into existence or leave existence. So you do inherently understand everything about them already. You just have to be reawakened to what you already know about them, and back to your eternal common sense state, basically. Okay, then we're going to go into, of course, people who still believe in this evolution thing, macroevolution specifically. Microevolution is referring to adaptation. Stuff everybody knows is real and legit. So adaptation within a species, that's microevolution. That is real, that is legitimate, that's easily observable. But macroevolution, where species actually change into complete other species totally over time without intelligent species interaction to push that happening, that idea of macroevolution is completely bogus. And anyone who's still adhering to that idea is really, they're really in the backwater of being updated on on the information that's current and accurate now, that's currently active in the world. And they really haven't been paying attention to what's been going on at all. So, but amazingly enough, a lot of people do still adhere to that macroevolution ideology, the change within species, because they simply don't understand and they don't know that all the species have been around since the dawn of the universe for billions of years. Humans have always been around. All the species of animals and insects and bacteria, they've also been around. It's just a matter of where they're around and what ratio during what times. That's all. It's not a question of them not existing and then one species turning into another species. It's a bunch of hogwash. So if anybody reads the Vedas, all the stuff is very clearly explained. What's the origin of each of the species and the species groups? There's 8,400,000 of them, 400,000 human species alone. What to speak of the others, and then 8 million of the other types of species. And there's very specific lists of how many types of species there are in each grouping. So a certain number of insects and plants, certain number of aquatic species, certain number of land animals, etc., stuff like that. So, and then we're going to get, okay, so the devotees, there's many Christian devotees still adhering to this globe earth model, even when they're refuting all these other fake models. So it's funny, it's like, okay, so you're going to refute the other artificially created fake world models, fake scientific teachings, but you're going to still accept the bogus, completely, the most misleading teaching of them all, which is the globe earth, more than all the others combined, actually. But you'll oppose the false ideologies of macroevolution and these others, but you won't oppose the globe earth model. Very interesting. So what's going to be happening with these people, and what I'm chuckling about it now, is that in a few decades max, those individuals who have been adhering to that fake globe model will see what we've been talking about this whole time. And then they'll come back around to all of us and be like, well, what else do you guys have information on regarding Sri Radha's actual glories related to the Flat Earth map? Because you guys were mentioning this way back in the day, and we kept refuting what you were saying foolishly. So then they're going to come to us and ask about that. And I'm just going to say, yeah, we'll tell you about the information. How did, and then I'm going to ask them, well, did you have fun those 10, 20, 30 plus years of adhering to the globe model and defending it? That must have been fun for you. I was just going to do it. It's just like a funny joke thing, just to get it to register. And then see when that happens, it's going to boost everybody's faith in Krishna consciousness by leaps and bounds in everything we've been talking about, like over the course of this entire history. And all of us are going to get flooded with questions and people wanting to know about this stuff more. All of us. They're going to flood us with questions on these things. So what that's going to do, it's going to put each one of us in positions of great power to influence the world in very significant ways, because they're going to be coming to us to ask us about this stuff. So, because we're going to be the people who have been talking about it ahead of time, before it became completely mainstream. Now, the flat circular Earth is supposed to have been mainstream by now, but the infiltration of the globe model ideology has been so thick and so thorough by a certain group of Rakshasas to where many devotees are still buying into it to this day. You guys have seen the encoded song, Heaven is a Place on Earth by Belinda Carlisle. Talks all about this, the globe earth model crashing into the water, into oblivion, related to Sri Radha's glories. We did a 2-hour presentation on it. And so yeah, you guys know what's going to be playing out there with all this stuff, and what is playing out now. So basically atheism, agnosticism, they're down in the water, they're down the drain, because you can see why people actually adhere to them, and what's seen as actually absolute. So, in atheism, basically, there's no clear-cut understanding of anything solid whatsoever, and that in and of itself is just foolish. And then, of course, in agnosticism, you have the only thing that they see as clear-cut, reliable, and trustworthy is skepticism itself. So always eternally doubting, basically. So if you question an agnostic deep enough, if you go far enough into him and you poke and you poke and you poke, I'm really good at this. I like to poke at people what they actually believe and keep asking them deeper and deeper to find where they're stopping short and how they're thinking about things, and then calling it out. Right there, boom, is where you're not seeing far enough into something, and this is exactly where you're stopping short in your thinking process. This is exactly why, and this is exactly what's going on in your subconscious right here, right now, as I'm speaking with you. Pay attention to that, observe it, look further into it, understand it, go beyond it. And then when I do this, they end up getting these like big blank-eyed looks on their faces, like, and they literally cannot respond to that, because they see that their foolishness has been exposed completely, and that they have to actually understand and acknowledge why it's foolish that they're adhering to their own doubting being a superior principle. And they have to acknowledge that, and they always do, but they still continue adhering on to agnosticism simply because they admit to themselves that they personally don't know, and so they go back to dumber levels of thinking about things. So they basically go back and revert. When you pinpoint them to that point enough, they will actually revert to lower, stupider levels of thinking in their consciousness. I've observed this, and it's very funny, actually, to see this play out. You'll see them keep reverting back all the time. So that's the problem with agnosticism, and why it will never work for someone in terms of, in and of itself, actually getting someone to understand things fully. Never. It'll just make you more and more foolish as time goes on. So, and more speculative and intellectually stuck and trapped as time goes on. Constantly going back to your doubt being the supreme principle you go back to, always. So if doubt is going to be treated as a supreme principle, it's best not to have anything to do with it, because there's nothing tangible, attractive, or alluring about doubt itself. It's just because there's no reliability. So then you're going to end up going back to what is reliable, your temporal lusts, your temporal desires for sensual pleasure, etc., etc. That's what you're going to go back to if you're an agnostic, and that's what they do. So now we're going to cover the actual so-called monotheistic ideologies, which aren't actually monotheistic in most cases. They're actually Brahmavadiistic, pretty much across the board, except for actual Krishna consciousness. So, okay, we'll start with the Abrahamic traditions, Judaism, Islam, and Christianity. So first we'll get on Christianity's butt here, where basically, or I should say false Christianity's butt here. So where in Christianity, there's an understanding up to the personal relationship with God. Okay, we have a personal relationship, but once you get up to that point of the personal relationship with God, that's when they start shifting into the Brahmavadi stuff again. Or, okay, the word, the sound vibration, that's really what God's essence is, combinedly with his form and stuff. And they're like two sides of the same coin idea. That's what you get into in Christianity. So ultimately, at the end of the day, you talk to him, you dig deep enough in a Christian's brain who's not actually a full Christian, which will then take to Krishna consciousness when you do this. If they're not actually a genuine Christian, they won't take to Krishna consciousness because they're not actually a Christian. Well, I found this across the board. Genuine Christians always take to Krishna consciousness, 100% of the time, no matter what. Once Krishna consciousness accurately and fully is presented to them. When the false versions are presented to them, Christians are thankfully intelligent enough to recognize those false versions and not buy into them, which is good up to that point. But once again, even within that, if they're not actually full actual Christians, they won't take to Krishna consciousness. So what you call them out on is basically their highest, deepest perception of what their relationship with God is, the form of God, because they don't have solid information on the form of God, the Supreme Person. That's where they're missing. That's where they stop short. And they don't have solid information on the nature and the visual appearance of actual transcendence, the highest realm, the highest place. They don't have solid information on these things, nor do they have solid information on how, what, way, and why is Krishna's name the actual original source form, or I should say Krishna's name, the original name which emanates from his deepest form. This they don't have information on. So that's why I left Christianity itself as a practice, I should say false Christianity, and took immediately to Krishna consciousness once it was presented to me. because I practiced actual Christianity. I had actual faith in God and Christ, and as soon as the deeper information was presented, which logically was common sense to me, then I immediately took to Krishna consciousness. Oh, cool. Now you're actually giving me information on Radha and Krishna's forms, which is what I was wanting all this time, information on what they look like, who they are, their personalities, etc. And I was also wanting information on everything else about them, my relationship with them, how everything works, the sciences thereof, which was missing in Christianity. It was just left to be all these vague, like speculative ideas, which were ultimately tinged with Brahmavadi. So, yep, there's the false Christianity out of the water. Islam, we all know about Islam. It's just, there's so many psychotic, erroneous, ridiculous, insane, stupid things within Islam that, I mean, it's pretty much you have to go out of your way to find any redeeming qualities in Islam whatsoever. So Islam is so easy to recognize as being a false, misleading ideology in every way, and completely stupid, to the point where it really does make you wonder how many people in Islam really are actually believing it, or if it's just 95+% of it, just the population in fear, and they choose to go along with it instead of actually really adhering to it. I think I really feel that's actually the case with Islam these days. It's just people basically cross fear-mongering each other to not leave Islam or to not go against it, and then that's really the predominant basis of people still adhering to it. Because nowadays they're being disproven right and left by everybody else, by Christians, Judaic groups, Krishna devotees, even atheists and agnostics are disproving Islam easily, right and left. So Islam's probably going to die very soon as an actual religious ideology, and it's going to warp probably into something else, like a different... This is kind of what I foresee. I see, because Islam's infiltration of Europe and like they're trying to infiltrate America, I see Islam warping into like a different religious ideology and different subculture, where there's going to be like, okay, this is like a new ideology, we're monotheistic, where they reject a lot of the old Islamic ideas, but they still maintain this pseudo-monotheistic psycho-belief system. That's kind of what I see happening with Islam. But it's like it warps and it isn't Islam anymore, but then it turns into something else. It's kind of like that, That's kind of what I foresee happening with there. But we'll see exactly how that plays out. And then, of course, the Judaic beliefs, anybody who knows about those understands that they're beliefs based on money-making more than anything else. They're not actually based on the original teachings of relationship with God. And if you go deep enough into the Talmud and what they actually teach about God, they're not personalists whatsoever. They're just completely impersonalists and Brahmavadis at the core. They don't have any solid conception of the actual form and personality of God as absolute or anything like this. It's all about money-making in Judaism. And basically, money-making and controlling the money flow is the religion of Judaism, Talmudic Judaism, Yahudism. And that's why they get in the positions that they do regarding money and banking and stuff, because that is what their pseudo-spiritual practice is. It's not a spiritual practice. It's just a temporal... Basically, it's a united worldwide temporal occult ideology, a worldwide gang ideology, with a bunch of encoded stuff that's put into a scripture called the Talmud, the Babylonian Talmud. That's all Judaism is. Now, what Judaism was supposed to be was Christianity. That's what Judaism was supposed to be, which then, thankfully, the Christians and the Gentiles descended from the Arya groups got a hold of the somewhat real version of what Judaism was supposed to be, which is actually devotion to God, actually, based somewhat on Vedic principles and things like this. But that's not what Judaism became or has warped into very soon after that, because that's why you read all throughout the Bible, the Old Testament, the Israelites themselves were repeatedly straying from what was actually the few prophets among them were actually trying to get them to do. So yes, even though the few prophets also within ancient Judaism were still themselves misguided on some very key points regarding Krishna consciousness and God and stuff, they were still more on track somewhat than the people around them. But then what ended up happening with the Pharisees and all that stuff by the time Yeshua appeared, Christ, now whether people accept Christ as a historical figure that ended up in the Bible or an astrotheological figure, the point is what he was teaching about what Judaism was supposed to be is what it was supposed to be originally. But that's what the people in Israel and Judah and stuff in the past, they shifted away from that. And that was the problem. And then they, as a whole, en masse, they started associating Judaism with an ethnic, genetic thing rather than what it was supposed to be. Now, the reason they started doing that was because that group of people in that world were genetically messed with by demonic races. So Rakshasas, Nagas, half human, half reptilians, all this other stuff. So that's why all of this weird, crazy-ass stuff comes very much so from like the Babylon region, the Middle East region, Egypt, and all this stuff, like this crazy-ass just psycho belief systems that have to do with making people like very sociopathic and very much obsessed with like becoming godlike and controlling the world and power-hungry stuff. All of this stuff really stems from those groups there who were genetically messed with by these demonic Rakshasa groups and stuff. And that basically just carried on as a genetic tendency in a lot of people to kind of keep going back to those ideologies. Now, everybody has free will, but that was what was going on. So people had this, who were descended from those genetic lines of people who were genetically messed with by these assert groups. They basically, it was just more convenient for them to keep going back to those erroneous sociopathic, psychopathic ideologies and continuing to adhere to them, like these tribalistic, ethnicistic, and mixing that with what they perceived as being spiritual. So they mixed up their ethnic genetic ideas with spiritual ideas, not being able to distinguish between the transcendence of the living being from the temporal state. They just balled them all up into one big massively messy thing, basically, however you want to word it. And this is why we have today. This is why we have all the psychotic, crazy, insane stuff constantly coming from the Judaic groups, the banker people who come from those families and stuff. And the Islamic stuff, they're just constantly always at war, constantly causing problems in Europe and elsewhere. It's because they descend from ancestors who are genetically messed up by assert groups. So it's very challenging for them to exercise their free will to go against that grain like 100%, like us, solidly, and to actually adhere to the higher principles. Now you'll notice that too about the Aryan genetic groups. Now, which are erroneously labeled Caucasian these days. Amongst these groups, you'll find that there's always a tendency to bring principles back to the higher principles. So compassion for plants, compassion for animals, and compassion for humans all together combinedly. This tendency and this trend does not take place amongst these pseudo-Abrahamic stemming traditions. And there's a reason for that. It's because on the one hand, the Abrahamic traditions and the stuff that stems from them is very much demonic influenced and psychotic based and humans dominating other species based in thinking. The Aryan traditions, all of them, from the original Vedic to the Persian ideas to the ancient European ideas, the Celtic groups and the Germanic groups before Roman Catholicism came in, the original European belief systems and stuff were very much in harmony with nature, treating the plants, animals, and humans very respectfully, lovingly, making amends for what you've done sinfully in this world, not considering yourself a proprietor of the land, understanding that you have to work in harmony with nature and with other beings to be successful in life and spiritually, etc., and that there's consequences for what you do. All of these principles were very solid amongst the Arya groups in the ancient past. When Roman Catholicism came in, so yeah, okay, we'll go into Roman Catholicism off of this now, because actual Christianity is very distinct from both false Protestant Christianity and Roman Catholicism, which is not Christianity in any way, shape, or form at all. It's a completely different ideology. So people who aren't familiar with this, they associate erroneously Roman Catholicism with Christianity. They're not the same thing at all. Roman Catholicism was in cahoots with and based off of these demonic ideologies, which stemmed from the Middle East. So the false Judaic ideologies and Islam and things like this. Very close to the same time period, not too far apart. Roman Catholicism came in just before Islam came in, basically. Now, both of these ideologies were just basically two different versions of, once again, ideologies which lead to psychopathy, abuse, exploitation of others, etc. Because literally Roman Catholicism was just taking all the astrotheological ideas which the Judaic people took to from the Phoenicians, and then basically molding it and warping it into an Aryan branch-off pseudo-ideology that was like more in tune with how the Aryan worldview worked. But it was still corrupt and demonic. So that was the problem. That was why, the main reason why Roman Catholicism branched off from and was different from Islam, these other groups, because the Shemitic ideologies had a different bend and fold, okay, and a different genetic origin as to what in the subconscious as to why people thought that way, and that's why Roman Catholicism also basically. So, and when Protestantism finally took over Catholicism, or at least got the upper hand enough to where they could resist them throughout the world and put an end to the insane torturing and stuff in Europe, this Protestantism then went through a bunch of warping phases up until recent times. And it's very interesting because that even Protestantism itself didn't actually develop up into like fully what we would term genuine Christianity up until quite later in the actual history. So basically, I guess you could say the first, in about the 1600s, actual Christianity was finally in place overall. In Europe, the actual Christian teachings were finally there. And this is when people were getting first-hand direct access to the books, the King James Bible and stuff. And then onwards it moved, but once again, within that, you have people who don't understand Krishna consciousness, and they didn't understand the origin of India, and they didn't understand what was really going on in India with the squashing of actual monotheistic teaching there. Okay, and now, of course, we get to Hinduism. Hinduism is basically just a big mass of impersonalistic teachings that treat Radha and Krishna and all the other deities and anything that has anyone and anything that has form as being limited and having a source other than that form, basically. That's Hinduism in a nutshell, put quite simply. So Hindus don't actually accept that the form of whoever the deity is that they're worshiping is the absolute source of everything. They accept that there's another source aside from all those forms that is the absolute. That's Hinduism. And that's why their philosophy is idiotic and will never actually lead them to anything that uplifts them, and will just keep them in the material world as long as possible. Because they'll always keep going back to temporal forms because they think all forms are temporal. So if it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you believe all forms are temporal or have origins other than themselves, you'll always go back to worshiping or focusing on something that's not supreme. Makes sense, because you don't actually believe those forms are supreme. So let's say even if you worship Radha and Krishna, but you didn't recognize that their forms were absolutely supreme, you would literally experience life to where you would end up worshiping something other than them eventually, because in your mind you're thinking, the absolute truth to me is something other than them, but I'm just worshiping them for now because that's what I prefer. You see where that goes? So it always leads people back to impersonalism again. It's just a big circle that keeps leading people back to like nothingness or all is light ideas over and over again, which lead them back down to wanting to have sex in the material world. It's funny. It's really simple. It's really stupid, actually. You look at any ideology in the world, any of them, and you'll find that any of them that don't have the infinitely beautiful forms as the source of everyone and everything else, they will always incline people to go back to sex in the temporal state as their main focus and main impetus. Well, why? Because that's what the living entity eternally wants, and because they're foolishly, idiotically, not recognizing that that's what they eternally have, they're going back down to the temporary versions of it. But this common sense doesn't register. And it doesn't register because it's compounded by all these demonic teachings and stuff that keep getting pushed on the populace. So yeah, that's really what we're facing now. And nowadays, here's what we're going to be facing now. This is the new, really ridiculous thing coming in. So here's the thing. Right now already, pretty much everyone we consider a friend, a foe, and a hoe, or whatever, whether they're a male or a female, they basically are all opposing actual Krishna consciousness, top to bottom, by their daily thoughts, by how they perceive the world, by what their goals in life are to achieve, and by what they want to accomplish in their life. And you look really deep into it, and you'll realize, actually, in most cases, these people who are opposing as these different roles are very strongly actually opposed to full-scale, real Krishna consciousness. Like, directly opposed. To where, if the actual full teachings of Krishna consciousness were to be presented to them, in full and in depth, they would aggressively resist them. Not just like, oh, I don't agree with you, but I'll agree to get along with you. They're like, I want to oppose you for having these ideologies. But that usually doesn't happen because you end up just not talking to people in depth enough about what the things are. Because what it comes down to is this. The choices that these individuals are making in their lives are daily, directly, and their activities are directly opposing Krishna consciousness and what Radha and Krishna want to see manifest on the earth. Directly opposing them. But it's just not seen because now we're living in this jumbled up mass of willy-nilly everything. We're basically, okay, so the current thing we're facing now is everyone now is agreeing on a subconscious level that machines, that artificial light, that communication technology, and that these types of things are God and are supreme on a subconscious level. Now think about that deeply for a minute. No one's actually accepting that communication technology, physical light, etc., these types of things, AI, no one accepts consciously that these things are supreme. But they're subconsciously accepting that these are supreme in their lives, in how they think, in how they go about their days, in how they go about their views towards transcendence and everything else. It's on a subconscious level affecting how you're thinking about all these things. Okay? Now, this is the plan. This is the plan to make the world adhere to the one world ideology, which we're all already adhering to predominantly already. Okay? The way it works is very simple, not complicated. If we are, in our consciousness, treating these communication technologies and light sources as beneficial, positive, wonderful things at the source of how we see them. And also on top of that, if we're looking at those benefits and those things as things that are in and of themselves things that need to keep increasing, right? And this is what we're going to classify as advancement. This is what we're going to classify as better communication. This is what we're going to classify as all sorts of things like this. Well, I got news for everybody. Back in the past, no one had these technologies, and even if they knew about them, which they did in the Vedic times, they purposefully didn't make them and use them. So you would have a relative who might have lived in Europe, or somebody who took off from India, and vice versa, somebody who lived in India. If you had a computer, you could talk to them at a distance, right? But and you could talk to them face to face at a distance. Whereas they didn't do that, though. Why? Why didn't they do it? It's not because they didn't know about it. It's because they knew all too well about it and what it does, the side effects of it. So the way it works is this. You have to understand how Radha and Krishna arrange things and set things up. The people we're connecting with now at a distance, through computers, through technology, etc., they're arranging that we're being allowed to connect with each other at a distance because these technologies are in existence and because of our different various karmas and things like that leading us to where we are in these situations. Whereas in the past, us being connected, if they wanted us to communicate with each other and talk, they would arrange situations where we would face-to-face come in contact with each other and interact, and be born in places that were geographically closer, or set us up in situations that we would travel to physically meet and face-to-face interact with these people. So like Rob and Cloud, in the past, Radha and Krishna would have arranged that you and I face-to-face met each other somewhere. See? So the argument people are using is completely invalid and not accurate, where, okay, if we didn't have this technology, we couldn't communicate with these other people. No, that's not true at all. It's just that Radha and Krishna would arrange it differently to where you could communicate with the people you needed to communicate with. They would just arrange it face-to-face instead of through machines. But because people aren't seeing it this way, they're not understanding this principle. They're looking at it as, oh, because technology is there, this is the only way Krishna consciousness is able to spread worldwide, etc., etc. No, that's not how it works. You can see where this is going. That ideology that is now mainstream amongst all devotees, that machines and technology are the thing that's allowing us to communicate at a long distance, is also a bogus ideology. Because that's not accurate. It's that Radha and Krishna have set it up prior and ahead of time that things will be set up this way, and that's why they've arranged that we appeared where we did on Earth and that are communicating through machines. Because they knew full well the machines would continue getting developed, and that's their direct arrangement also. Keep this in mind. But the machines themselves, the communication technologies, that stuff itself, the lights, the information itself is not the absolute supreme thing. No. Now, what's going on is that the current foolish ideology that is now spreading, we talk about it all the time, is the syncretic Brahmavadi stuff, where, and for most people it's going to be subconscious. It's going to be where they accept that the absolute truth is both personal and personal simultaneously. This is going to become the mainstream ideology worldwide. This is the mark of the beast ideology. This is the thing that's going to be what dupes everybody into accepting that that's the absolute truth. Huge numbers of Krishna devotees are already accepting this ideology, either on a direct level or a subconscious level already. So it's no surprise that even if devotees themselves are being duped into it, that the whole world will easily be duped into it. Because guess what? Everybody who's not already a Krishna devotee has already been duped into buying into all sorts of other numbers of false ideologies, which make it just that much simpler to accept the no tech coming in. So, mark my words, my friends, and pay very close attention to this. We're already under the beast system. Okay? Now, Christianity, what's interesting about the Bible and Christianity and Revelation and stuff like this, these predictions that are playing out in there are accurate, and they're referring to so many different things, both consciously and subconsciously, internally, in our systems, and externally. So the predictions are taking place, just they don't exactly take place the way in which not actual Christians see them, basically, in the sense of, okay, because in the most cases they're not familiar with who Radha and Krishna actually are, and they don't understand a lot of these other factors about God's form and personality, etc., which are involved in these prophecies coming fulfilled. So those predictions in Revelation apply to all of us too. They don't just apply to some guy speculating on something and, oh, if you're a Christian, it'll apply to you in this way. No, it'll apply to literally everybody in the world. Now, this amalgamation of all these false, fake ideologies that we're all already adhering to and buying to on so many levels on a daily basis already. Like, okay, what are we all accepting on a daily basis? Subconsciously. We're accepting subconsciously that cars are a more convenient means of transportation. We're accepting that cell phones are a more convenient means of communication. We're accepting that credit cards are being imposed on us and we can't buy or sell anything without them, which has been forced on us. That's part of this beast system coming in. And the fiat currency, we're all accepting against our will that the fiat beast system currency, which is fake and not backed by anything, is what we have to use to buy and sell things. We're all buying into this on a subconscious level already. So we've already accepted the mark in our subconscious and in our right hand, in our association with people, how we interact, how we exchange money, and in how we think about things on a general daily basis. So even your general daily thoughts, there's no such thing as having general daily thoughts distinct from transcendental deep meditations. They're all connected into one thing. So our general thoughts on a daily basis have directly to do with how we perceive our relationship with Radha and Krishna eternally. I mean every little thought you have at every moment, not just, okay, I'm busy focusing on my work right now, so the thoughts I'm having now are focused on work. No, it's like those thoughts you're having when you're at work, how are you thinking about your work? How are you seeing their forms in what you're doing? Or are you not? Are you thinking about your work in terms of, okay, this is my work, this is my Krishna consciousness, or are you looking at it prayerfully continually? My work is my Krishna consciousness and vice versa. You see, that's how things have to be seen. But what's going on now, and why this is going to be so easy to implement, it's going to be so easy to implement this actual chips in people's hands and barcodes on the forehead or vice versa, barcodes in the hand. The point is, those two places are the places that batteries are more easy to recharge here and here, and that's why it's very practical. It's very simple. It's not complicated. So it's going from fiat currency to credit cards being imposed on us, to credit cards with chips being imposed on everyone. No one protested worldwide. No one went against it. There was no revolutions against this, the forcing of chips into credit cards. Everybody accepted it across the board worldwide. Nobody liked it, but everybody accepted it. See? And this is the same thing that's going to happen with the mark of the beast in the hand. Now, what people don't understand is that this is connected to your relationship with Radha and Krishna also, your Krishna consciousness. Because it's going to be actually the final test of, do you actually have faith in Radha and Krishna? Or do you have more faith in their arrangements through material things? I'll reword that again. Pay attention to what I just said. Do you have more faith in Radha Krishna directly, 100%? Or do you have more faith in them interacting through matter to help you? Which one? Think about that very deeply on a consistent basis. What do you have more faith in? The factual answer is most devotees worldwide, including myself, if I don't watch it and catch it, and all of us if we don't watch it and catch it, is that we tend to have more faith in how they arrange things through matter for us versus direct faith in them, actually. Okay? This is extremely significant, because if the answer is the second one, if you have more faith in Radha Krishna's arrangement through matter to help you, you will accept the mark of the beast. You will accept it if that is your ideology. And this is the ideology of most devotees already worldwide. And this, which is why they will accept and justify accepting the chip in the hand or the mark in the forehead in order to be able to buy and sell for the convenience, to be able to provide for their families, to be able to get along in the world, etc. That's the justification everybody's going to use to accept these two things. Just like we're all accepting right now using greenback and using credit cards because we can't buy or sell anything without them. Because barely anybody's recognizing gold or silver as a medium of exchange or anything else right now. Therefore, we're all what? Being forced to accept the fake currency. And we're being forced against our will. That's exactly how it's going to work with the mark. But what do? We all keep justifying using it because of the convenience factor. Because if you don't use it, you live a life of insane inconvenience and insane difficulty, right? But that's the degree that will actually show somebody's faith and actual dependence on Radha and Krishna. This is why it said in the scriptures, in the Revelation, that those people who accept the other side are spiritually doomed, which basically means you're guaranteed practically to have to take another rebirth in the temporal world because you've basically sealed your fate. You've made it clear that you have more faith in Radha and Krishna arranging things for you through matter than you do in them directly, in your eternal relationship with him directly, 100%. See? There's a lot of really little subtle things here that are going to play out and that everybody's going to start noticing. So it's going to be an insanely difficult choice for you guys. Don't think you're the one exception. Don't pull this crap thinking, because here's what is going to work. People are erroneously right now thinking that people who voluntarily accept the mark of the beast is referring to people who like enthusiastically accept it. Oh yeah, I'll take the mark in my hand or my forehead so I can buy and sell. No, even people who aren't religious or spiritual won't be accepting it for that reason. The vast majority of people throughout the entire world will be like, okay, I'll have to accept it. I don't really agree with it, but I accept it for this reason. It's talking about people who are justifying accepting the mark under threat and pressure. Those are the people voluntarily accepting the mark. This is made very clear scripturally. So don't dupe yourself and don't kid yourself. You're not the exception. I'm not the exception. None of us are the exception. If any of us justify accepting the mark voluntarily on any level whatsoever, when the actual physical implanted marks come in, we've screwed ourselves devotionally and spiritually. Done. Finished. Doomed. Screwed. And you will now be an opponent of those who have resisted it, who are actually depending on Radha and Krishna directly, more so than how they interact with them through matter. This is going to cause war between devotees. And this is no joke. Sunday is a fun day. This has a lot of esoteric meanings also. The sun. Okay? The sun conquering over the darkness. The sun also referring to the chaos that's going to ensue when everybody starts to accept this false light under justification. Because here's what's going to go on, and I guarantee you this is how it's going to play out, and people are going to be a bunch of idiots about it. They're going to be like, okay, because we're Krishna devotees, because we have faith in Krishna, and Christians are going to think the same way, and we really don't agree to get the mark. We're just doing it because we have to take care of our families, because we have to for this or that reason. Those people are going to think about it that way. They're going to be thinking, like fools, that they're the exception to the rule. Whereas they don't realize that the billions of other people throughout the world are thinking about the mark the exact same way they are. We all have to get it. We all have to accept it in order to buy it and sell, and in order to take care of our families, etc. Why? Because they're thinking more about how Radha and Krishna provide and take care of through matter than they do directly. And what does that do? It brings the consciousness, the mind, and the body under the domination more so of needing to eat, needing to drink, needing to do all these other things, have comforts, etc. More. It impounds that, having that ideology. So there's going to be infinite excuses people are going to use for accepting this. It's going to be infinite excuses. Oh, I have to have it for my work, blah, blah, blah. I have to have it to take care of my family, blah, blah, blah. I have to take care of it because I want to be able to buy and sell, and I can't just, I have to accept it because I'm handicapped, because I will literally die if I don't accept it, etc. All of these justifications are going to start popping into people's heads, And to anybody in the world who also adheres to this beast, mark of the beast ideology on a subconscious level and agrees with it, will also agree with those people. Oh yes, in your case you should accept the mark, and then in my case I should also have to accept it because of this and this, and then the other guy over there, he's going to justify it some other way. This other guy is going to justify it for some other reason. You see where this is going? I mean, my friends, pay attention to it. Do you really see where this is going? Like, think about this really deeply. It's nobody is that stupid on this planet. There's a very small subset of the population that is stupid enough to happily, joyfully, with open arms, gladly accept a chip in their hand and their forehead. Some of people are that stupid, yes, but they're a very small minority, and they will remain eternally a very small minority on the planet. Most people, even those who are idiots in every other way, have enough common sense to recognize, hey, I don't want to have something physically imposed into my body in order to be able to buy and sell stuff. Most people with common sense don't agree with that, but they're all going to accept the mark anyway. So see, when I bring these things up, it really hits home with everybody because it's going to be a forced choice. You're really going to have to make an aggressive, insanely, strongly willed choice not to accept this goddamned mark when it's imposed on you. And you're going to be resisted and met with resistance by all the fucking people around you, all the people who are your so-called friends, all the people who oppose you, and everybody else who supposedly claims they're a Krishna devotee are also going to oppose you. Because you're not accepting the goddamn mark that they're accepting, and because you haven't agreed to their subconscious false ideologies. That's why. Because you've adhered to the actual facts, and because you're prepared to fight in warfare against them if need be, to actually oppose that crap, which they're contributing to by agreeing to it. You see what I'm saying? It's going to be intense, guys. Don't kid yourselves that this is just going to be easy willy-nilly, oh, it'll all just work out nice and smooth because we're all Christian devotees. Nah, there's going to be a lot of clash. Because the ones who actually accept this shit voluntarily, they're going to be cut off immediately, and there's going to be a divide amongst devotees worldwide. The ones who haven't accepted it and the ones who have. Now, I'm getting heated up about this, but internally I feel very calm, even though I may not seem like it. I'm getting heated up and furious about this because I'm seeing devotees right and left continue to accept these fucking technologies and continue to justify using them. Cell phones, televisions, computers, radios, myself even. I've been using more of this than I should have been using. We need to go back to landlines. We need to get rid of these fucking LED lights and these fluorescents and actually do these on a practical level. And we also need to resist and not ever accept anything that involves physically being chipped or implanted with something or barcoded. Anything short of someone knocking you out and forcefully implanting it into your body against your will, anything less than that, where you agree to it at all on a volunteer level, I will oppose you. I don't care who you are. You could be, I will still internally love you as a friend, but I will oppose you in every other way, and I'll be aggressive about it. Because I'll be like, you fucking idiot, you accepted this mark voluntarily and you justified it. Fuck off, get out of my face. That's how I'm going to be about it. Make no mistake, I'm not exaggerating this. I will be that aggressive about it. Because this mark of the beast system opposes me, it opposes Sri Radha's mission, and it opposes everything she stands for. And this is why we're going to be met with resistance by all factions, all sides. Quite literally so. A lot of people say this. They claim this. Oh, okay, you're going to meet resistance. I meet resistance. We're having to face opposition on a daily basis. They have no idea what it means to face opposition. We're going to be seen as criminals. We're going to be seen as everything under the sun that is evil, demonic. We're going to be hunted like animals, sought out to be slain because we oppose this stuff and because we're not able to buy and sell using that system. Make no mistake about it, guys. And you guys are all going to regret it who accept this mark. And I'm wanting this to hit home with you. I'm wanting you to feel dread about it right now so that you don't accept it and you don't justify it under some stupid-ass voluntary ideology or some, subconscious thing you're agreeing to it or whatever. You can resist. Doesn't matter who you are. You could be a handicap who's completely dependent on the system in every other way eternally. If you maintain your solid faith in Radha and Krishna, your relationship with them, they will work things out for you. You won't have to accept that goddamn mark. No, because there will be other people who won't accept it with you, and they'll help you. They'll keep you alive. They'll work with you. They'll fight for you and on your side against that system, who aren't handicapped, who do care about you. See, so that's going to be how this is how it's going to test the faith of the people who are handicapped, who can't move around it, who basically are at the dependency of a lot of other people. Because this mark works, you have to voluntarily accept it. Your free will has to agree to it. Make no mistake about this. There's no such thing as this mark being able to be implanted and have the effect of being the mark if you don't actually justify it on some level, okay, or another in your subconscious. It cannot work without that, okay? So keep this in mind. And this is a very auspicious message for Ekadashi. Yes, happy Ekadashi, Nitai. Because what is Ekadashi about? Ekadashi is about direct connection with Radha and Krishna. over and above material engagements, thoughts, activities, etc. It's a time where Ekadashi is technically the mode we're supposed to be in all the time. But Ekadashi is the reminder day. Okay, we're supposed to be in this mood this much more on this day and actually focused in this direction. But it's comical and it's funny, and at the same time it's infuriating. But what you recognize about it all is that to the degree you actually adhere to the full truth, the fullness of the truth, okay? To that degree, how far into the fullness of complete truth you adhere to, that much more enemies you will for certain 108% make throughout this world. Okay? Guaranteed. 100%. And to the degree you stray from that, or don't teach the actual deepest, insanely, most in-depth, highest truth of things, to that degree you will make friends in this world, and get associates, and have things working out socially, etc., according to the way things are currently set up. This is how it works right now. Together, we're changing this. But what this means is you all have to 100% now agree to yourselves and be adamant to yourselves about it. You have to make the decision now that I will never accept that mark, ever. I will never accept the physical version implant of the mark under any circumstances whatsoever. Never. Period. You have to make this decision now. If you guys do not make this decision now, you will not be able to assist me in my mission for fulfilling Sri Radha's mission in this world. You won't be able to help me because you're going to be working with the other side. Involuntarily, maybe. Sure, of course. Of course it's going to be involuntary. It's going to be regretful and everything else, but nonetheless, you're going to be on the opposing side. So you can't leave this decision off for later. This is what I'm saying. This isn't a joke. This isn't just some willy-nilly thing I'm talking about. This isn't something that has to do with fanaticism. It's very real. It's very in your face, and it's very brass tacks, very practical. You have to make the decision now, before that happens, that you will never accept it, ever, under any justification. Not for the justification to take care of your family, not because you need it for work, not because you need it to communicate, not for any reason whatsoever. Because if you do, you're fucked. And that's as simple as that. You're fucked if you accept this. So, and you're messed up in your consciousness, both and in what's going to happen to you also afterwards. Because make no mistake about it, these texts are controlled by demonic entities. So they can use them how they want in your systems. Okay? If you get that thing implanted in you by force against your will, what's going to happen is they're going to then ask you afterwards, do you actually voluntarily accept it and do you agree to this? And if you don't, they're going to kill you. And if they don't kill you, at the very least, they're going to lock you up for life until you do accept it. So take your pick. Right? Do you accept the convenience, which is what everybody's going to accept, and thinking you're the exception, because I have faith in God, I've accepted it, therefore I'm good, I can still make it back to Gloka and this and that. Bullcrap. No, that's not going to happen. Because you haven't actually had faith in Radha and Krishna. You haven't actually accepted them. If you do that, if you make that choice. So, and you notice everybody goes silent on these ones. Silent. Because they feel a sense of fear and dread. And it's true. It is fearful and dreadful. Because it's a fateful decision. It's not just a decision that's like an optional thing. Okay, you can technically accept this mark and still go back to Gloka, still attain a relationship. Or you can also not accept it and resist it. Nope. It's not how it works. Because this mark is directly connected to your ideology at the core. Directly connected. It's not a separate thing from how you internally perceive your eternal self in relationship with them. The flat earth map is not a separate thing either. The flat circular earth understanding, and the understanding of what that map is the source of you having, and directly related to, not the source, I should say directly related to and directly connected to how you accurately perceive your relationship with Radha Krishna, or erroneously so. It's all directly connected, 100%. So it is extremely significant that you understand how the earth is shaped, related to your relationship with Radha and Krishna. It's insanely significant. It's extremely significant whether you directly depend on them directly or depend on them more through matter, how they interact with you through matter. It's extremely important. So, You can feel free to chime in, my friends, at any point, but I think what I'm saying is hitting home, and it should be hitting home. It needs to be hitting home to me also when I'm saying it. So when I say all these things, I'm speaking to myself also, not just to you guys. Okay? Because I'm going to start roaring against this, because we're going to see devotees right and left start to try and justify, oh, we're devotees, so we can accept it for this reason. Krishna will still take care of us. Well, of course Krishna will take care of you. He takes care of every living entity, even all the people who accept the mark. Of course he's going to keep taking care of them, but it's going to fuck them over spiritually. That's the problem. So, and that's the whole point. Of course you're going to be taken care of. You're going to have your material needs met. You're going to have your virtual reality tech. You're going to have your luxurious food. You're going to have your sex indulgence, your sex bots, your artificial wombs, and the artificial peckers and artificial semen from the robotic male versions and stuff. People are going to have all this stuff. And that's all by Krishna's arrangement. But is it going to get you to transcend to Goloka? No, it won't. Not unless you actually maintain the direct, actual faith in them. Because there's going to be a time when that system is defeated, yes, afterwards. There's a 7-year time period, once again, the 7, of tribulations and all this other stuff. And then the 1,000-year reign of Christ on earth, quote unquote, with the big block thing and all that type of stuff. That's related to very specific things also. But that's actually more so referring to Radha and Krishna's names being spread throughout the world. The golden number 4, the number 4. This is why it's associated with that shape. So their glory is actually being spread throughout the world. And that also is part of the second phase of this. So Krishna consciousness will ultimately win and be victorious over those things. But the question is, are you going to help the devotees who resist all that stuff? Or are you going to go along with it and adhere and fight on the side of the false ideologies? It's going to be another Mahabharata. Are you going to fight on the side of Duryodhana, even if you're a Krishna devotee, but be fighting on the wrong side, or are you going to be fighting on the right side of the Pandavas, even though you may have some demonic tendencies in your hearts and mind? Which one are you going to be? So it's so when devotees are just going to start trying to justify en masse, preachers are going to start doing this right and left. Okay, it's okay to get the mark, it's okay to get the implants because you have to do it to buy and sell. As long as you just keep chanting the Maha Mantra every day and you'll be okay, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to roar against this like no one's ever seen before. I'm going to be like, no, you people are teaching incorrectly. You're misleading everyone. You're leading people away from Krishna consciousness and you're screwing them all over, and you're adhering to this one world religion just like the rest of them by agreeing to this and justifying this. So if I see anybody preaching, anybody, I don't care who it is, they could be my closest friend in the world, if anybody starts preaching that these marks are justified on any level whatsoever because you have to do it for family, and this is what the arguments are going to be, mark my words, I guarantee it, I'm saying it now before it starts happening. You have to do it for your family to take care of your kids, blah, blah, blah. You have to do it for this reason, that reason, that's what they're going to use. And I'm going to be like, no, you don't, actually, which is the truth. So anybody who starts claiming this, I'm going to scream against them and shout until they go away, get out of my face with that, and continue on with that preaching elsewhere. Or they actually agree to me, agree with me on this one, and agree with sanity, and agree with actual devotional principles on this one. So this, Haribol, Robin Cloud. So this principle, I still believe macroevolution, how to deal with corruption and degrading Kali. Well, let's see here. There's a lot of stuff mentioned. It's very similar to early Christianity. Yes, actual Christianity is, but there's very, very insanely few who actually practice it. Okay. So let me go ahead and pull these comments up. I haven't been able to actually respond to any. I've just been talking. I haven't read the comments actually at all. But let's see here. It's going to the topic. I accept Krishna currency for the profit. So what I'm telling you, Robin Cloud, my friends, and I will eternally see you as my friend no matter what happens. But I'm going to be roaring against this continually, where, correct, exactly. Let's see, notice my above comments. Let's see, technocracy is so scary. I've still never been through the naked body scanners in the airports. They make me so angry. Yes, they should make people angry. Catalyst of Kali Yuga. Accept cryptocurrency for the profit. He's going to the topic. Yep. One card reverse and they say Prabhu name, they're going back home. Okay. All these oak trees and old trees and national parks give us air, and dinosaurs got air from them too. is this referring to? 7 billion holy name cards airdropped. Let's see. Okay. You guys are bringing up some good points here, and so I'll answer the overall gist of what you guys are getting at here. I think you're talking about when you say, "Oh, he's going into the topic." Yes, it is the topic. It's very key here. Let's see. So Robin Cloud, like what I've been saying, any justification you use, and I'm talking about you personally, one-on-one, man-to-man here, any justification you use to accept this mark whatsoever will screw you over spiritually, and I'm not exaggerating. It won't be good for you. You'll have to take another birth, most likely, and or if you are able to make it back to world, you'll have to go through an insanely hellish, torturous phase before you make it back. If you voluntarily accept this thing. Not because Krishna wants to harm you, no. Because you are harming yourself by accepting that. There's so many subtle things involved in this that I will go into in depth later in later presentations on how and in what way this is related to these things being in the system, being sources of torture being able to be ignited in a person's system to where they're not allowed to die, but their whole system is ignited with a torturous sensation. This is also related to this mark and the demonic tampering with this mark if you have it in you. This is not a joke either. So this is like really serious stuff. And he said, my comment in particular I wanted you to notice, anyone who thinks parents won't allow their kids to be chipped, parents allow their kids to be circumcised, mutilated. Yeah, exactly. Of course parents will. And in fact, parents and families are going to be the main ones who are going to have the most difficult time resisting getting chipped because it's going to be that much more convenient for them to not have to deal with it. Single men are going to have a slightly easier time resisting because if you're a single man, you can run around, take off where you need to go, and you're not stuck having to take care of a family who's going to slow you down and drag behind you, you know, when you're needing to truck fast at long distances, etc. So there's going to need to be contingents of people guarding women and children and stuff while other groups are actually going out and trucking off really fast on foot elsewhere, whereas the women and children won't be able to keep up with those people. So that's what I'm saying. There will be groups who are resisting, but the more the merrier, and this is the whole point. So it's like the way things are now, from what I'm seeing, is still there's going to be such an overwhelming number of people accepting it that they're going to be resisting intensely the people who don't accept it. And it's going to make it that much more difficult for those of us who refuse it to actually continue functioning. So yeah, the families are going to be the main source of the people getting screwed over, because what are all the parents going to do? All the parents are going to justify practically across the board, oh, I have to get the mark because if I don't get the mark, I won't be able to take care of my kid, they'll starve, blah, 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 this and that. And that's going to be their thinking, because they're not thinking about Radha and Krishna's direct taking care of them. They're thinking about how Radha and Krishna are taking care of them through matter, through monetary means, through means, instead of directly. That's what the crux of this issue comes down to. Okay. Yeah, it will screw you up too, is in too much sense enjoyment, and that's part of it also. That's part of this. What's going on here? You're going to be bombarded with so much sense enjoyment. It's going to become your ideology by default, just by having that chip in your hand and your forehead, and it's going to warp into all sorts of weird ass devotional ideologies from that, actually. Because yes, Radha and Krishna will be appearing through the VRA tech and stuff, but the point is, this mark system will be defeated, but there's going to be a time frame where everybody's stuck in it, and then when the mark system is finally defeated, we'll come back in and then we will actually properly use the tech. But there's going to be that phase where there's a warfare against it and fighting, and then we come in and properly use it. But there's going to be a phase there where that takes place. How exactly it plays out will depend on people's free will. So we have the free will to resist this en masse and to put up a really good fight against it. It's possible, yes. To where it would be more like a civil war situation instead of a worldwide mass, everybody accepting it and very few resisting, like in a Rambo type situation scenario. It's possible. It could lead to a worldwide civil war situation, basically, or an international civil war, I would say, because those who are resisting it and those who are against it, because it'll be the issue of the day, basically. It could manifest that way, and that would be the best case scenario, where we would have much more forces and much more power to resist them, and that could happen that way. That's one possibility, but it all depends. See, prophecies and things work along the lines of how the people's free will works too. So a prophecy is like the general things, how things will happen overall, but it's not a prophecy saying, okay, this is exactly how it's going to happen 100%, and this is exactly what people are going to choose 100%. No, you have the free will still to choose and to determine how exactly the prophecy does play out specifically, like the point-by-point details. For example, we've made it this far with only the fiat and only the chips and the cards and a certain number of people being chipped in the hand and forehead voluntarily, but we could have been in this situation back in the 90s or the 80s even, or the early 2000s, where people were like starting to get chipped and stuff forcefully, and then things, you know, also like, we could have gotten there that far, but we've made it 18 years beyond that without that yet happening yet, because that's how this version of the pastimes have played out, and this version of the plot, and that was because of how people use their free will. You see, there was at least enough people worldwide constantly speaking against this stuff to postpone it long enough. You know what I'm saying? And still are now. So thankfully, at least a lot of the Christian groups, even a lot of the roaring fanatic ones who are misguided on a lot of other points, many of them are actually right on this point on not accepting this ship. And on that one point, I agree with them on. But the problem is on a lot of the other points, they're just as misguided as everybody else is, with pseudo-monotheism, which is Brahmavadi, etc. So, this circumcision crap, yeah, my dad specifically got me circumcised, and I've moved on and forgiven him internally and stuff. But the point is, I've never been able to trust him ever for my entire life because of that. Because he, under scriptural justification, biblical justification, had me get circumcised, and it was at the age of 4, and I was conscious throughout it, off and on. Basically, I was asleep, but I woke up in the middle of it, etc. And it was pretty traumatic. Yes, not a pretty traumatic, very traumatic. And I just lost trust in my dad from that day forward. It was just, I could never actually trust him internally, no matter what. My mom basically just agreed to it and went along with it. Once again, having that effeminate nature, going along with whatever the pressure is, as long as the pressure is forceful enough around her. That's what the female nature does. The female nature will eventually go along with whatever the forcefulness of the masculine nature is doing around them, basically. Whereas the male nature is able to continually resist insanely and hellbently against the forceful masculine nature till it leads to actual warfare and combat. Whereas the female nature will tend to just eventually agree to it if there's enough force and pressure, under emotional pressure and stuff. Like, okay, I have to take care of my kid, I have to keep moving on with life, blah, blah, blah. Whereas the male nature is that, no, we're going to go to warfare against you because we're going to insist that we oppose you no matter what. You see what I'm saying? So, yeah. Now, the stupidity of what's going on now is, well, tell me about that, Robin, if you're still on. What was that agnostic answer you answered to somebody? What was that? And why are you considering yourself to be an agnostic Vaishnava like that? I mean, it's interesting you're recognizing that, and it's healthy that you're recognizing that, actually. We need to recognize in ourselves what we're doing, the tendencies. You see what I'm saying? So, and I need to also recognize in myself what I do, my tendencies and things. And this is a key principle of Krishna consciousness. And not ever thinking we're aloof or exceptions to anything. Okay? Don't think that about it. Understanding you're individually unique is distinct from thinking you're an exception to things, materially speaking, or temporal, or in terms of temporal laws or the system that Radha and Krishna have set up. That's different from understanding you're an eternally unique individual and loving relationship with them. They're two separate contemplations. Okay? So what's happening now, though, in the world is everybody's thinking they're unique on the temporal, externalized, materialistic plane level, where they're thinking about it in a false ego type way. Like, I am unique in a falsely egoistic manner, and they're correlating that with how they think. So, let's see here. But I'm still going through the AKC purification. And yes, this is the whole point, the purification process. And a lot of times, the things are needed to hit home very hard and solid to register fully, and to be that driving impetus. I said we cannot know if God exists. I answered that I probably believe in God. Okay. In devotional growth, rascal tendencies. Okay. Now, my question to you, Robin, this would be a good way to shift the conversation into: do you actually believe that? And that's right now. Do you actually believe that? And that would be the question. Do you actually believe and feel that we cannot know if God exists? And my question then would be, why do you believe that? Even after everything we've discussed so far, and even after all of these presentations and discussions where we've gone extremely in depth on these things, the question would be, why still adhere to that thinking process? What would be the impetus for that, I guess I would say. It's a very good thing to ask yourself and answer solidly to yourself. So at least you know why you would still adhere to that up to this point after all of this. See what I'm saying? Yes, and the thing is, we're all going through devotional growth, but This is very important to remember. Accepting this mark or not accepting it will actually be a test of actual Krishna consciousness. At all. Like actual, genuine Krishna consciousness. It's not going to be a thing where, okay, if you accept the mark on some degree voluntarily or whatever, you can still accurately be classified as actually being a Krishna devotee. It's not going to work like that. Because that's not actual devotion to Krishna. That's accepting mammon, which is accepting the materialistic laws that they work through over them. Which is where basically, do you accept God or do you accept mammon? Mammon refers to money, the ways of the world, the processes of the world that we're forced to act according to, the temporal laws that are imposed on us, karmic laws that are imposed on our bodies and minds, mind you also. So many things like this. Hare Krishna, Nicholas Paris, Prabhu Kijai. Yes, there's a lot of, and welcome Nicholas and everyone else. I wasn't looking at the comments the entire time, but just now I'm now looking at them. So I wasn't sure 100% who had popped up. Because we cannot know in the same way we can objectively prove things using science. I am not a scientism lover. Right. We cannot do a simple demonstrative experiment in the same way we can in science for other proofs. We have more relational and scriptural proof, which is of a different quality. Okay. Well, here's the thing. My response to that, Robin Cloud, is what we've always been talking about. We cannot know intellectually that or prove intellectually, using the intellect or the mind, that those things are true. That is 100% accurate. And the reason for that is because the intellect and mind themselves, in and of themselves, are limited and are stuck to coming to impersonal conclusions as their highest potential by themselves. That's why that is. So it's not a matter of what you're saying in and of itself being incorrect. It's a matter of how and in what way you're saying is accurate or correct. So basically, the relational proofs, the scriptural proofs, and the scientific proofs which are seen through and based on those proofs are what access Radha and Krishna. And this is the point we keep making over and over and over again. And this is why I keep emphasizing this so strongly, that if someone uses the intellect, and here's the thing, it's a mistake for anybody to do this. It doesn't matter if you're a pure devotee, if you're not a pure devotee, if you're an advancing devotee, if you're a person in general. It is a mistake, a grave mistake, that pretty much people across the world, across the board, are adhering to think that the intellect can process things beyond an impersonalistic ultimate conclusion. The intellect cannot process things beyond an impersonalistic conclusion. And this is why we've discussed in previous videos the science of why the intellect processes things, everything, including discussions on God, the way the intellect does process those things. And that is, which is why people who use the intellect on insanely in-depth levels always come to impersonal conclusions. This is actually explained in the Bhagavatam why this happens. So it's literally, it's not, so when Krishna says surrender unto me or depend on me or have faith in me, it's not him saying just believe and therefore you'll understand me. No, it's saying you have to understand and you have to grasp this science of how your intellect itself stops short, where your intellect stops short, and you have to be able to see beyond your own intellect on all of these topics that I'm talking about. That's what Krishna is talking about in the scriptures. And then he delves into the science of how to see past your intellect and past your mind and to actually see you, yourself, with him relationally. Because these things are beyond the intellect and mind. And they are beyond temporal, mundane provability. Okay? They can be proven, but the people who aren't actually connected to the relational evidence and proof beyond the intellectual, scientific, temporally seen proof, the ones who aren't actually connected to the deeper proof beyond that, with Sri Radha Sladini potency, they won't actually be able to understand the proof, even when it's presented to them. Nor will they be able to access, register, or have faith, or feel inspired by that, because, why? Because they're using their intellect, and their intellect is their God. And because they're treating their intellect as their God, or their supreme deity as far as they know up to that point, they keep coming to the all-light conclusion over and over and over again. And you talk to these people, and you get in conversations with them, and then you ask them, okay, what conclusion have you come up to after thinking really years and years in depth on this, studying all the scriptures, blah, blah. They always say to you the same thing every time. Well, I've come to the conclusion that the all-light, we're all one, we're all absolutely merged in oneness, and then the Radha and Krishna's forms, or if God has a form, they're basically the movement, interactional, relational version of that absolute truth. This is what they will always say. Every time, across the board, period, 100% of the time, no exceptions, none. So, Robin, what I would mention to you is we're talking about these things constantly over and over and over again. How the intellect is limited, why it's limited that way, why the intellect processes things the way it does. So we're literally discussing exactly what the agnostics are thinking and why they're seeing things that way and what they're seeing up to. So agnostics are literally seeing it up to this point. And this is why, this is how, this is what's going on in their psychology as to why they're seeing it that way. We covered this all in the syncretic Brahmavadi versus real Brahmavadi presentation. So you are very intelligent, Robin, beyond your intellect. So delve into that deeper understanding of things beyond intellectual capacity. You have to do this. You must, in order to appreciate these things and get that enthusiasm you need in devotional service to inspire you in daily Harinama Sankirtana on a personal level. You must. Okay? So I hope this is helping much more, because I want to help you, my friend, and uplift you and make you feel happy on a daily basis. Because these things are inspiring. They don't cause anger. The furiousness is just me trying to get the point across, because it's that important for you to feel happy on a daily basis internally, and to see Radha and Krishna with you on a daily basis. Genuinely so. And then, here's how it works. I'm going to explain this very clearly. Much better explanation than I'm able to give. So here's how it works. Here's how it works. And it's very important for devotees to be able to explain these things very much in depth for people who are having troubles and struggles with the intellectual stuff. Because devotees need to understand and know, and they need to be seen and shown that they understand and know how the intellect works and why it works that way. So that they can actually explain, okay, how does relational proof and how does relational direct connection with Radha and Krishna, their forms, how and in what way does that translate to the intellectual temporal plane, and why is it that the intellectual temporal plane stops at that point in relationship to their forms and personalities? Okay? Why is that? Devotees need to be able to explain this. Like all of us need to be able to explain this to others across the board. This needs to be standard information, standard knowledge. Because if you don't know how to explain this properly, and you don't know how to relay this information properly to others, others will reasonably so continue seeing what you're saying as being fanaticism, being belief-based, being faith-based, and all this other stuff. When Krishna says belief, faith, trust, surrender, all this stuff, he's not talking about the versions that most people think about those things. He's not talking about the common understanding of what those are. What he's talking about is understanding things beyond your intellect directly with him. Like actually understanding them, though. Here's the thing. It's not, you don't just believe things. You don't just accept things because Krishna says them. You understand what he's saying and how that translates to the various layers. Intellect is a specific point. It's a specific tier on the layers of going up to grasping the absolute truth. Okay? So you have the physical body, you have the mind, you have the intellect, which stops short at Brahmavadi, all is one philosophy, ideology, all is one in Radha Krishna's forms of the vibrant movement forms of that all one, if they have, personality. That's where the intellect stops with that erroneous view, right there. That's the intellect. So if you're thinking that way, if your brain processes things that way, that is how the intellect thinks about stuff, period. That's how the intellect has always worked. The intellect always will work that way, because the intellect is a material, temporal thing. And this is what everybody has to understand. They must understand that the intellect is temporal in nature. It begins and it ends. So therefore the intellect cannot grasp that which is beyond beginnings and endings, because it itself begins and ends. The intellect does. Okay? So something which begins and ends will be processing everything in relationship to, that has movement, that has form, to its own beginning and ending, related to that beginning and ending of the intellect itself. So it's like you can't have a frog that's stuck in a bowl of water, which is covered by a black piece of paper around it, being able to see beyond that black piece of paper to any reasonable distance whatsoever. And if somebody cuts a hole in the paper, they'll only be able to see that amount past the black paper. You see what I'm saying? This is the allegory to understand about the intellect. The intellect is that box bowl where the little frog, the living entity, is trapped within. Okay? And then the glass around the bowl, okay, and then the little black on the outside of it is where the intellect is stopping is where the intellect stops being able to process, because that's literally as far as the intellect goes. It only goes that far. So this is what people in the scientific field and range of things, they need to understand this. So at the very least, if people are continuing on with the intellectual scientific stuff, they will at least know where the intellect will stop and where it always stops. And it's very common sense, because you just talk to them and you talk to people who are like these philosophers and stuff, and that is the conclusion they keep coming to, is that impersonalistic conclusion. And it's understood, and Krishna has explained why they come to that conclusion. You know, it's all laid out by Krishna why they do that. So it's like, okay, Krishna understands why people process things that way. He explains how the intellect works. He explains where the intellect's limited. Okay, you're seeing the impersonal absolute like this, if there is one, and you're doubting this because you're using a tool that's limited by nature. Okay, Krishna explains this in depth. So therefore, but I'm telling you personally, what's beyond that bull, which is your intellect itself, is what's trapping you. And this is the actual factual information beyond it. And then your faith is going to consist of you understanding this with me inherently, intuitively, beyond all explanations and discussions and things laid out on paper. He's like, I'll lay the science out on paper for you, but in order to connect and grasp it, you have to be connected with me to understand what I'm saying to you. You see, he says, if you're not connected to me intimately, face to face, intimately is the key word here, then you won't grasp what I'm telling you. You'll keep concluding what I'm telling you is within the realm of the intellect's limitation. Okay? Because you're assuming that the intellect is greater than it is. And that's the problem. Scientists, they have too much faith in the intellect, and that is the problem. And you see the proof of the pudding is in the eating. They always come to the same conclusions, no matter what they do. And there's a very obvious. It's not because their conclusions are absolute. Because what happens when scientists come to those conclusions that are Brahmavadi or Mayavadi in nature, or they eternally lack conclusions, which is also Brahmavadi and impersonalistic in nature, because you don't have anything solid to relay to people. It's just willy-nilly up in the air. Oh, we don't know, so, okay, since we don't know, let's just all keep indulging in sex again. I mean, it's really a childish way to think about things. Because it's like, if you don't know the absolute truth and you're not connected, you're never going to feel inspired to actually go in that direction, more so than you're inspired to go in the direction of sex in the temporal world. Because even once you are connected, you're still drug this direction towards your sense pleasure, because you're wanting to use Radha and Krishna in that sensual pleasure way. So it's still challenging, but you can't even begin to get beyond the desire for illicit sex at all, unless you have a solid understanding of what's beyond the intellect. You can't, because there's no reason to do so. That's the whole point. So intellect is mundane. Yes, intellect is mundane. It's the subtle body. How to understand beyond intellectual, how to do it a day at a time. The name is not complicated. This is very simple, my friend Nitai. You have to understand that understanding and intuition are the connection to that which is beyond the intellect. Okay? So it's like this, and this is why Sri Radha always emphasizes this so much. I want to make it right. Okay? She wants to make it right with you. She wants to make it right. She's associated with the right side of the brain. I come in through the right, etc. You're in the right path. What she's constantly talking about, and what Krishna are constantly talking about, is very simple. The right side of your brain. Okay? The intuitive side of your brain, the creative side of your brain, the things that the part of your brain that grasps things abstractly, without the need for numbers and things laid out in like a grid format in front of you. Basically, the thing that just inherently grasps concepts. Okay, beyond the need for proof, beyond the need for this or that or evidence or whatever, the original side of the brain, where your original thinking comes in, where your uniqueness is expressed. That part of your brain and your consciousness is connected to your transcendent self. It's the bridge between the two. So it's connected to your transcendental self. The left side of the brain, the intellect side, is the side that is more connected to matter, more connected to the temporal and how the temporal operates, more so. Okay? So the left side, intellectual, is the way you relay the concepts that are coming over here to people who are seeing it from the temporal side. Okay, how you relay the principles. That's how the Vaishnavas and devotees use the left side of the brain. How do you relay abstract, deeper principles beyond the intellect into a way that the intellect can come close to grasping? Okay, at least on a theoretical level. So you have to be able to translate things to where the intellect can process things theoretically, at least for those who are using too much of the left side of the brain to grasp these concepts. Okay. This left and right brain thing is very significant because, yes, the left and right brain sides are also temporal in nature, but the right is more connected to transcendence than the left. Or I should say, let me be more specific. They're equally connected to transcendence, but the right side is more connected to Sri Radha specifically, and especially the eternal transcendental female nature, etc., which gives the individual an easier time connecting both hemispheres of the brain and understanding things from that deeper level of grasping them immediately and inherently without need for external proof and with all those doubt and everything like this. And then, of course, the left side is connected especially to Sri Krishna, which, once again, remember, we always keep talking about this. The left side of the brain can more easily grasp Krishna, the Supreme, as being God, as being the highest truth. That the left side of the brain can process that more easily. The actual deeper truth is Sri Radha controls Krishna, just like the right side of the brain, the intuition, is actually the more key aspect side of the brain, which is supposed to drive the left side of the brain. The left side isn't supposed to be driving the right, but most people look at it the other way around. They're thinking, okay, the left, the logic, the reasoning is more or less driving the right. The right is just kind of willy-nilly. Then once again, Sri Radha is who? She's the hidden supreme. When we're looking at the deities, Sri Radha is on this side, which is correlating with this side of our head, and Sri Krishna is on this side, correlating with this side of our head. So the conception that Krishna being God and all this other stuff, that more easily, conveniently registers with this side of the brain, left side of the brain. The deeper things register from this side of the brain more, and give you actually a deeper understanding of even the things on this side, the left side, okay? And this translates to how people see the relationships with Radha and Krishna also. Even once they're connected to that stuff beyond the brain, the intellect, and the right side of the brain. So please always understand this. Now you're saying a very practical way to do this, okay? The right side of brain corresponds with the right or left eye. The exact eye correlation, right or left, I don't 100% remember which one that was. I know the right side of the brain correlates more with the left hand, or left-handedness, and then the right side of the brain correlates more with right-handedness. So doing things a lot more with the left hand helps ignite the right side of the brain. But the point is this. Here's another thing. People tend to get caught up in this temporal side of things, where the syncretic Brahma bodies then preach another false philosophy. Oh, because you're using more of your right brain, because you're doing that's why you're more connected to Sri Radha, the feminine. And because the people who tend to use a little bit more of their left side of their brain, they tend to be a little bit more aligned with Sri Krishna, and those who use both equally are inclined towards both of them equally. But they once again, see, this is the problem. They're correlating it as being a materialistic tendency, which is leading you to some concocted idea of the absolute. That's not how it works. Not regarding Radha and Krishna. No, it works the other way around. So don't get caught up in all these little details too much, like, okay, the right correlates with the left, which it does, and then the left brain correlates with the right hand. But the point is, understand the principle here. Understand that intuitive, deeper understanding without the need for evidence is the key to grasping your relationship with Radha and Krishna. The evidence will come and it will be there, but you won't be able to grasp what it means and the import of it unless you're connected on that intuitive level. You have to have the connection beyond the information. You have to. Because if you only have the information, it will only remain theoretical. It will never translate to a practical daily experience. It will always remain theoretical, and things that are theoretical are not attractive. They're not more attractive than sexy female bodies in the material world. No. Things that are real, the actual transcendental beauties of Radha and Krishna, are more sensually attractive than female bodies in the material world. And therefore, that is how you can connect intuitively. Now, here's how it works. Does the spiritual world have a spiritual mind? The spiritual world exists within Krishna's body. So Krishna himself personally is the mind, who is the mind. So the spiritual world is literally within Krishna's body and his form. The spiritual world that emanates from Krishna's form and body is not like some separate thing from him that's like differently manifest. No. So it's like the spiritual world's mind is Krishna's mind, specifically that Krishna is the mind behind the spiritual world, and then the world around him is still within him, though, like his body. So it's not like, okay, Krishna exists in the spiritual world, and then therefore the spiritual world separately has like an existence that now that it's come from him, now it's a different thing from him now. Like, okay, there's him, then there's a spiritual world. It's not exactly like that. The spiritual world itself is within Krishna, just like we are within Krishna also. We are within Krishna formfully, face to face, and interacting with it. So literally the entirety of the spiritual world, the whole thing is inside the transcendental body of Krishna. This is no exaggeration. So it's within the body of Krishna. It's not that we're Krishna's body. He displays it that way, okay, and he appears in ways where he appears as if he's quote-unquote in the spiritual world, till we interact with him, because he manifests the land we see around his form and everything like this. But all those lands we're seeing around his form that's in front of us, the medium form that's talked about by Bhaktisiddhanta, are actually within his form. This is what we keep talking about. Krishna's form is infinitely larger than the all-pervasive Brahmajyoti. And devotees who are denying this and not understanding this principle are also going to accept the mark of the beast, and they're going to resist Krishna consciousness. And they are already. They're thinking this is a hair-splitting point that's not important. It's all important to understand that Krishna, that the Brahmajyoti is within body of Krishna, and then he emanates it from him. Because if they don't grasp this, they won't get it. They won't get it. Yep. No, the spiritual world is also inside Radharani's body. In fact, Krishna himself is within Sri Radha's body. Remember, the ratio, the zero and then the line. It's in the 1,000 names of Sri Radha, this verse gets overlooked so many times, and I'm adamant that devotees understand this verse and understand what this means. In the 1,000 names of Sri Radha, towards the very beginning, it's very clear, it's abundantly clear, that because of these names of Sri Radha, because of her glories, Krishna himself is in the position eternally of being the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Because of Sri Radha. Let that sink in. Please let that sink in. And remember and understand why the zero comes from Sri Radha, the circle, and why the line is within the zero, why the line is within the circle. Because Krishna is within Srimati Radharani. The people who have the Vasudeva conception of Krishna will never understand this in a billion, trillion, quadrillion years. Never. They'll never grasp this principle. Ever. As long as you insist that Krishna is the one who controls Sri Radha, you'll never understand this. Never. Never, never, never. You'll never get it. You have to understand that she controls Krishna 100%, 108%, 1008, 1,008%, infinitely. She controls Krishna. And Krishna is within her. She manifests herself as the male supreme enjoyer eternally, and she eternally remains hidden. That hiddenness is the thing we're eternally seeking out. The eternally deeper hidden factors about her are what we are eternally seeking out in Goloka Vrindavana. That is what keeps Goloka Vrindavana eternally fresh, new, and exciting. Because she is full of infinitely newer mysteries herself. She controls Krishna. Krishna can be completely grasped and understood himself in relationship to her, but then she is the one who contains the mystery, the hidden mystery beyond that. Krishna's glories are explained in the Bhagavatam. Who he is, what his position is, all this other thing. He's the upfront supreme. And that's why he's explained like that. Radharani's name and her associates, her pastimes are encoded in the Bhagavatam because she's actually the deeper hidden supreme that we're actually supposed to seek out within the Bhagavatam. Once we understand Krishna's position and everything else, then we start seeking who Krishna really is, who really controls him, how he really operates on the deeper level. The reality about Sri Radha. That's what we're really supposed to seek out. And that's why the Bhagavatam remains ever fresh. Think about it. The Bhagavatam is not going to remain ever fresh for someone who reads the verses that they're already familiar with. Okay, this is Krishna's position. He's the Supreme Personality of God. He's this and this and that. It remains ever fresh because Sri Radha's glories are there, hidden in the Bhagavatam. That's what remains. That's what keeps the Bhagavatam ever fresh. I don't understand why devotees don't get this. Like they have to grasp this principle to actually feel happy and enthusiastic and to function independently in devotion without the need for external hierarchies. You have to have this connection and you have to have this vision. Let's see here. You're mentioning a lot of good points though, Natai. Yes. You say you're always theoretical. So here's the thing. It's very simple. It's very, very simple. Don't complicate it, my friends. Don't complicate any of this. Simple for the simple. Prabhupada keeps repeating that over and over and over again. Radha and Krishna's forms are vividly explained in full detail in the scriptures. Okay? Their features, their eye color, their skin color, their forms, the mathematical details of their forms, what they look like, how their body structures are laid out, etc., etc. Their personalities, what they prefer, what they like. All laid out. You can understand this very simply if your intellect is what you're using and which is what is trapping you. If you are not seeing Radha and Krishna's forms in front of your face continually. If you're seeing anyone or anything else, and if you're processing anyone or anything else throughout the day, you are not seeing Radha and Krishna in front of you, and you're using the intellect. Period. It's that simple. So if you're not seeing Radha and Krishna formfully, face to face, in front of you, interacting with you, non-stop, 24/7, you're using the intellect and you're using the intellect's conclusions and processing of their personalities and forms. That's how it works. It's that simple. It is no more complicated than that whatsoever. As the second you start processing their forms as anything other than or less valuable than who they actually are, as the source of the Supreme and concepts of the Supreme, etc., you will immediately start shifting into Brahmavadi ideologies towards their forms. Immediately. Within a split second, you'll start thinking that way. What that means is, on the subconscious level, impersonalistic thoughts will be in the back of your mind, where you will now start processing the forms you're seeing in front of you as an aspect of the Absolute rather than actually the source of the Absolute. That is the intellect at work. And that is why the entire world knows me not, Krishna says. When Krishna says the entire world knows me not, he's not exaggerating. It's not even like figurative. Like, the entire world knows me not, because the knowing he's talking about in that context is the intellect grasping him, which never can grasp him. So literally, even the pure devotees who are using their intellect as a tool to grasp Krishna can't understand him with their intellects. Even the pure devotees can't. What to speak of anybody else? They're understanding Krishna beyond their own intellects. Not with their intellects, though. The intellect doesn't grasp Krishna, doesn't get him, doesn't understand him, never will, never can. Period. It can't. The intellect can't understand Krishna because Krishna is transcendent. People tend to they just don't understand this word transcendent. They think it just transcendent means, it means it's something beyond, but we don't understand it. No, that's not what transcendence means. Transcendent means beyond your intellectual capacity eternally. That's what transcendent means. So, that for being the case, you catch yourself. You'd be like, nah, your intellect starts trying to convince you to look at things a certain way. You'd be like, no, I'm not going to do that because I know what's happening right now. This is my intellect at work, and this is my intellect processing things the way the intellect is described as processing things by Krishna himself. So it's like you have a person telling you, okay, this is how you're going to perceive things about me in my form when you use your intellect. You're going to see me impersonally. You're going to see that I am the movement, vibrational, interactive version of the Absolute, which you're going to see as an all-light and me combined at the same time. Krishna says this to us face to face. He says, if you use your intellect to understand me, that's how you're going to see me. And guess what? Surprise, surprise, Krishna. If you actually do what Krishna just told you right there in the scriptures, if you use your intellect to process me and understand me, this is how you're going to see me. And then guess what? You see Krishna exactly how he just told you you're going to see him when you use your intellect. Shouldn't that inspire in you some faith? Well, tell me more, Krishna. I'm seeing you exactly how you're describing how I'm going to see you, and it's because I'm using my intellect. And he's like, yep, exactly. See? Now I have more to tell you, but do you want to actually hear what I have to tell you? That's where Sri Radha's glories comes in. That's where her pastimes come in. That's where his interactions with her come in. You see? You see where this is all going? This is why Krishna appears as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. If Krishna already... Here's the thing. If Krishna himself eternally just inherently understood and knew what Sri Radha's mood is himself, and fully grasped that and fully understood it himself on his personal level, he wouldn't ever need to appear as Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He would just stay as Krishna and eternally appreciate her mood and her pastimes and understand everything about her from that point. But Krishna actually has to try to understand Sri Radha on a deeper level. Himself has to try this because she controls him. That's why he takes the form of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu eternally, because his eternal mission is to understand who Sri Radha actually is in his relationship with her. This is stuff that the devotees aren't talking about. This isn't being discussed. This is what's really going on. Like, this is why Krishna appears like that as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu eternally, and why he eternally is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, experiencing her mood, because as Krishna, he's completely under her control. As Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he can then get a taste or a glimpse of who she actually is, how she feels towards him and towards the living entities. Then he can experience that, because he's in the role eternally of being the supreme enjoyer of her and the living entities. But he's being put in that role. He's being controlled by puppet strings by Sri Radha to be the supreme enjoyer. And everybody thinks that's who he is. He is the supreme enjoyer because she makes him that. It's not just because he just is the supreme enjoyer willy-nilly, no, it's because Sri Radha makes him the supreme enjoyer and controls him like a puppet. That's how it works. Let's see here. And you're mentioning If I see them, I would think I'm imagining how to avoid. Intellect always gets us hurt or fails us how to control over it or win. Prabhu, my friend, I love you, but I might need to start screaming at you pretty soon here. In love and affection. In Virtrasura mode or something. And I'm saying this with love and affection to you, Nitai. And that's how it works. We imagine bona fide way, and it's fine. They're amazing. Yes, they are. So here's the thing, my friends. I'm almost doing a face palm at this point. Because I feel like, I don't know, I feel like I keep mentioning the same things, but what I'm trying to get at just doesn't seem to be registering. I don't feel like it's actually registering the way I want it to register, which leads to insane upliftment on a daily level, like insane enthusiasm and devotion, and like really uplifting experiences, like consistently, a lot. So you're saying, when you see, this is the problem, Nitai. Okay, when you see Radha and Krishna, this is what is going on with devotees. They're thinking erroneously, because the imagination, once again, we just talked about this over and over again. The imagination is connected to Sri Radha, connected to the intuition. So the imagination is the midway point between actually connecting with Radha Krishna and temporal illusion. It's not, the imagination itself is not completely within temporal illusion. It is connected to transcendental reality. So when you see the forms of Radha and Krishna in your mind, or you're seeing a deity form of them. They are actually appearing, but they're appearing in a deity expanded form, using your imagination to assist you. Okay? You have to look at it this way, because that is actually what's going on. If you look at it from the perspective of, I'm seeing Radha Krishna and it's my imagination, wrongly thinking that your imagination is only completely illusory and material, that in and of itself is an illusory conception towards what you're doing. You're literally denying yourself from being able to see them when you do that. You have to understand that Radha and Krishna appear in external physical deity forms, and they also appear in internal mental, internal deity forms. So Radha and Krishna appear in forms slightly different from what they eternally look like, just like they do in deity forms on the altars. Like they appear on the altar in Boise, Idaho, and in Germany, every single deity looks different, the features. Though none of those deities are the exact original features of Radha and Krishna. None of them are. And how many devotees worldwide think that they're imagining the deities in front of them when they're looking at the deities? Nobody thinks that. They're thinking, oh, this is Radha and Krishna manifested through the deity. So think about it. How much more so are Radha and Krishna able to that much more manifest through your imagination, through your mind, in dreams, etc., in deity forms that are that much closer to their original forms? Because the subtle is slightly more connected to transcendent than matter is even. Okay? So you have to understand it from this perspective. You have to understand Radha and Krishna are appearing to help me using my imagination. And they're appearing in a mental deity form to assist me. They're actually appearing to you. It's just they're in a mental deity form appearing to you. You see? Now, if Radha and Krishna actually fully appear, like physically in the external world, like in their original forms, which sometimes can happen with pure devotees, it's very rare, but it can happen, or if they appear according to their original transcendental form in your dreams or whatever, like that isn't a mental form or imaginary form, then you'll know 100% that it's actually them. If there's any doubt whatsoever, you'll know that they're appearing, but they're appearing in a deity form. You see? It's very simple. Yes, we get the ability to imagine because of Sri Radha. And think, Prabhu, my friend, and all of you, my friends, why does Sri Radha continually emphasize the childish mood to us? In terms of encouraging us to be children, encouraging us to use our imaginations, encouraging us to not worry about what others think about how we perceive her, how we perceive Krishna, etc. She's always encouraging us in these ways because she is the source of our imaginations. She's the source of our creativity. She's the source of our right-brainedness. She's the source of our thinking process that's original and unique, and that which is hidden, the occult. She's the source of all those things. And that's why she's always encouraging us in those directions. That's why she encodes things in a hidden way, in the Bhagavatam and everywhere else. Okay? Whereas Krishna tends to be far more upfront about everything, direct, blatant in your face. This is it, blah, 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 this is it, boom, boom, boom. And when I say blah, 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 I mean what he says. I'm not saying that's useless. He's saying very important information, but the point is, it's all the upfront stuff. It's not the hidden stuff. You see what I'm saying? Sri Radha herself is where the hidden things are found. Okay? So Sri Krishna gives us the blatant, okay, this is the situation, Goloka Vrindavan, Radha, me and Radha, Sri Radha and myself in this loving dynamic, you with us. Krishna explains all this, and then Sri Radha herself explains all the hidden stuff that have to do with you particularly, your unique relationship with her and Krishna, all that deeper stuff. She's the one that delves into that stuff. with Sri Krishna there, yes, present, but her guiding him, you see? Okay, so he encodes in music, exactly. Now, thank you for opening your eyes and making it actually practical. Yes, my pleasure, my friend. Because this is all supposed to be common knowledge. And the reason I'm so adamant about this is because it's only when devotees have these things that we're talking about right now as common sense daily standards, like of how they perceive things, only then will we actually unite, and only then will Harinama Sankirtana spread throughout the world. So I'm anxious to get Harinama Sankirtana with devotees together throughout the world doing this, because only with these understandings of Sri Radha and Krishna will that enthusiasm arise in your heart. Only you have to have this understanding of them, though, and this connection with them in this way, with this grasp of things. Otherwise, you won't get that enthusiasm, because it'll always just be I'm just believing something I have faith, but I'm not actually grasping what I'm doing. You see what I'm saying? You have to grasp what you're doing to appreciate what you're doing, etc. So these yogis with multiverse travel are childlike. Well, they're not the type of child that Sri Radha is referring to. They're immature-like in doing that, because they're being distracted by externalized principles. And most of those yogis see Radha and Krishna according to the syncretic Brahmavadi idea. And most of the demons see that too, that way. That's why they're... See, the demons are promoting the philosophy they have towards Radha and Krishna. That's why they're promoting their philosophy worldwide. And so the yogis tend to adhere to that same philosophy too. So when it says that... when it says that Maitreya Muni was a devotee of Krishna, but he was tinged with monism, monism is referring to a wide range of things. A lot of times people think it's referring only to impersonalism. No. Monism is referring to absorption in the intellectual knowledge aspect side of things relating to Radha and Krishna. That's what monism is talking about. So he was tinged and impure in his devotion because he was too fixated on information about them and information about Krishna, more so than actual loving interactions with him. He was focused too much on the information. That was Maitreya Muni's problem, an issue, and why he wasn't classified as a pure devotee. Uddhava he understood all the information, but he was more interested in his intimacy with Radha and Krishna, more so than the information about them. Whereas Maitreya Muni tended to be more so interested in the information about him more than the actual intimacy. You see? That was the difference. And this is mentioned clearly in Bhagavatam. So, and Rob McLeod, you mentioned she encodes in music. And see, think about, of all the sciences and arts and things in the world that could be encoded through, music is one of the main mediums. Why? Because music is the inter-universal language. Music is the closest connection to the dynamic flow of Goloka Vrindavana, the activities there, our eternal function. Music is the closest connection to our eternal function. So beautiful sounds, sounds that inspire, that uplift, that cause emotional effects, that sound vibrational frequency. And this is why Harinama Sankirtana, singing and dancing, sound, music, okay? Music and dancing. That is why Harinama Sankirtana is that, because Harinama Sankirtana manifests from our original function in Goloka, which is every word is a song, every step is a dance. That is a literal statement. Every step you take in Goloka is a dance step, and every word is literally a song. Literally. In Goloka. That's how you experience things around you. And that translates into matter as... So everybody universally worldwide is attracted to music to some degree or another. Okay? Every human that's doesn't have some weird like mental psychological condition where they're blocked off from being able to appreciate music or whatever. But every sane, reasonable human to one level or another appreciates music. Okay? This is because the living entities appreciate music, because it's what we're eternally doing. And this is why Harinama Sankirtana is our eternal function. Harinama Sankirtana in the temporal state manifests as the Hare Krishna Mahamantra specifically, okay? And in transcendence manifests as both the Hare Krishna Mahamantra being sung throughout the day in Goloka, along with all the other words we're saying to Radha and Krishna about what we're doing, about what we're cooking, about what we're experiencing with them, are also their names. Okay, so when we're saying okay, this spoon, this fork, this chunk of butter, this chair, this, the flour over there, when we're saying all these things referring to stuff, the other living beings, I should say, in Goloka Vrindavana, we're referring to Radha and Krishna according to their various names. Do you understand this now? That's what Harinama Sankirtana is doing in Goloka Vrindavana, and this is why you have to practice this in your daily life in devotional service. You have to practice when you're chanting the Mahamantra. You have to understand And you have to see everyone and everything around you as Goloka. You have to see things as Goloka Vrindavana. You have to see it this way. Because that will get you into the consciousness and the customization that when you actually leave the external body, you'll already be absorbed in perceiving everything around you and inside of you as being Goloka Vrindavana already. You see? That's how it works. It's not that you can just, okay, I'm chanting the Maha Mantra, and then at the end when I leave my body, you just all of a sudden expect that somewhere out of nowhere, you'll be brought into like Harinama Sankirtana consciousness or Goloka consciousness, when the entire time you were just treating Harinama Sankirtana as something you did here, and then later on you do other stuff in Goloka. That's just not going to get you back to Goloka. It's not going to work. It's not how it works. So you'll end up, if you do that, you might end up, at the very least, you might end up in like Dvaraka or something, and you'd be like, hey, I wanted to make it to Goloka. And Krishna would just be like, hey, well, you didn't actually understand that Goloka Vrindavana was everywhere around you, inside and around you, so you made it back to Godhead, so you're with me now in Dvaraka. We'll have a good time here. But you've got to absorb your consciousness even from here in Dvaraka into Vrindavana consciousness to get there. So you'll still have to do Harinama Sankirtana even if you make it to Dvaraka to get to Vrindavana. So it's like, why postpone it? Why wait? Why put it off till later? You know what I mean? And that's the whole thing. Yeah, you've got to be interested in the face-to-face interactions with Radha and Krishna. You have to. Like, you can't be interested in Radha and Krishna because they're the supreme goddess and because they're God. You have to be interested in them because you're interested in them. You know what I'm saying? Just like if you get the hots for a chick in this world, right? Okay? She's got a gorgeous figure. She's her personality you love. Everything about her arouses you and attracts you to her. You have to feel that way about Radha and Krishna. You have to, in order to actually feel enthusiastic in daily Harinama Sankirtana. You have to feel, and that's of course a mundane example, but the point is you have to feel that degree of attraction to Radha and Krishna, and that spontaneously, that, gosh darn it, I'm actually attracted to you personally. You see? And you have to do this. You have to. Otherwise, that inspiration won't take place for that continual Harinama Sankirtana. Or even that appreciation for Radha and Krishna on even the baseline level won't arise properly without that consciousness. It amazes me how many devotees are still in the Dvaraka consciousness towards Radha and Krishna. They don't even realize it. They have no idea whatsoever that they're actually in a Dvaraka type of thinking towards Radha and Krishna. They're just not seeing this. And this is happening across the board everywhere. Where it's like people keep talking about Radha and Krishna, but they're talking about Radha and Krishna according to the Dvaraka idea of them. And it's just like, I'm like, guys, you have to get over that loop in your consciousness, or that hump, like, because it's just, because you have to see Radha and Krishna as they actually are. You have to understand that she controls him on the deeper level, and that's the hidden truth of it all. That's the hidden fact that we have to discuss amongst ourselves. Scripturally, it's always going to be laid out according to the Vasudeva conception. Always. This is how scriptures have to be laid out, because that is Radha and Krishna's eternal arrangement together amongst themselves. They've made an eternal arrangement where Krishna's the up front and she's the hidden. Eternally. So this is why things always play out like this. And why someone who tries to openly express the hidden stuff won't be appreciated or grasped unless the other person he's talking to is also focused on and picking up on those hidden aspects of things. So that baseline stuff, the Vasudeva Dvaraka conception, etc., those are designs to get us deeper into the Vrindavana conception. That's what their purpose is. And if we're not using them for that purpose, we're misusing them. And there's every potential of us not even maintaining the Dvaraka consciousness either. So let's see here. We've got 2 minutes left. Yeah, okay. This will be a 2-hour one. Just all of this crap in this world, within and outside of Krishna consciousness, all of these misleading teachings and stuff, and all of the teachings that are somewhat accurate but not fully accurate on the deepest level, all of these things are just there in our faces to stop us from interacting with her. That's what they're designed for. And they just constantly are interfering with that. That's all they are. They're just a big, massive mess of insanity that is just getting in the way nonstop for no reason whatsoever our interactions with Sri Radha, formfully, face-to-face. Yeah, just all this other stuff is just in the way. You know what I mean? And they're all stupid ideologies. Like, I'm not even going to hold back on this anymore. Like, all these other ideologies that don't have that as the core conception are stupid, and they're foolish in nature. Because they always lead to the same goddamn ultimate conclusions, that's why. And I'm sick and tired of people coming to the wrong conclusions about Radha and Krishna. I'm personally sick and tired of all of it. I'm sick and tired of the impersonalism, and I'm sick and tired of the Brahmavadi impersonalism mixed with personalism. I'm also sick and tired of personalism that involves Krishna only being seen as God, as the main thing, as the main function, and then intimacy with him secondary. I'm sick of all these conceptions towards Radha and Krishna. I'm tired of it. And I'm also sick of Krishna and his relationship with Sri Radha not being properly understood. I'm sick of this not being spread faster and wider and more vehemently throughout the world. This stuff needs to be getting spread. Spread aside from just me producing these videos about it. I'm very anxious for this to start happening. I want other people to start promoting this and actually start saying this to other people and spreading this factual truth. Just my friends, anybody who's watching this, just stop it. Stop it, stop it, stop it. Stop seeing Krishna as God as the most important thing. Knock it off. Knock it off, knock it off, knock it off. Stop, stop, stop. Quit it. You're being an idiot and you're being stupid by doing that. And I'm saying this because I want you to be related with Krishna on a more intimate level than him needing to be God. That's what I want for you guys. That's what I want for everybody, every living being. And if you keep bringing it back to Krishna having to be God for you, I'm just going to keep saying, knock it off, stop it, stop it. Go deeper into your relationship with Krishna. Love him for him, not because he's God, okay? Love Sri Radha because she is Sri Radha, not because she's the supreme goddess. Love her for her, okay? So, does your girlfriend or your wife have to be Sri Radha? Do they have to be the supreme goddess or God for you to love them? No. Does your very close friend that you love have to be the god or the goddess for you to love them all the same? No. So why should Radha and Krishna have to be the goddess and God for you to love them? Why would that have to be the case? Or to appreciate them as such? Why do you even need them to be the supreme? Why are you creating this double standard for Radha and Krishna that you don't impose on other living entities? For fuck's sake, think about it, people. If you're not imposing the condition that another living entity has to be the supreme person for you to love them on a deeply affectionate level, why in the hell would you impose that on the person who is supreme, needing to be supreme for you to love them? Why are you doing this? Why are people doing this? Why are devotees doing this? Why are they needing to see Radha and Krishna as supreme? Why? Why do they need to see them as the goddess and God to love them? The thing that you impose on them, you don't even impose on the dog down the fucking street. This is what Ayodhya Prabhu is teaching. My God, get this through your heads. I'm saying this in so much fear because I care about you people, my friends. Yes, I am fanatic and I'm a nut job and I'm insane about this point, and I accept that and I admit it because it's true, because it's the fact, and because it will uplift you, and I know it for a goddamn fact. I know it. But you have to stop imposing this need for Radha and Krishna to be the supreme onto them. You have to stop this. This is what causes those fucking wars. This is what causes devotees to kill other devotees. This is what causes all this fucking conflict that I'm sick of and will end in my lifetime, because people will be united and they will actually love each other and appreciate each other, and they will actually appreciate Radha and Krishna beyond these external things. You see? The thing that you don't even impose on an ant walking around on a table is the thing you're imposing on Radha and Krishna. Why the hell are you doing this, people? Now, I'm saying this to people in general. I'm not mad at Unitai or Robin or anything. I'm just saying this to ignite in people this realization of what they've been doing. And I'm going to explain this very clearly so it gets through everybody's heads. It's because you see Radha and Krishna as needing to be the goddess and God, to love them, to worship them, to be intimate with them. That is why you keep remaining trapped in your intellect. It's because that condition you're imposing on them is the source of all your fucking problems in your life. 100% of them. And I can guarantee you that this is the case. That's why you're facing all these difficulties in life, which I'm not facing. I'm not facing difficulties in my life, people. I'm really not. Like, when I say this, they think I'm exaggerating. Or the difficulties of my life have been lifted and taken from me, because I don't see Radha and Krishna that way. They reciprocate with me. They actually appear, and they actually show affection regularly and consistently in ways that I could never even fathom. All because I don't impose on them the need to be the goddess and God. I don't give a shit whether they're the supreme or not. Because none of us should give a crap whether that's the case or not. It doesn't need to be the case. It's just, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, the dog on the street doesn't need to be God for you to love them, to give all that fucking affection, to like pet him and say, oh, you're so cute, you're so loving. So why in the hell would Krishna need that condition for us to show him affection? And people call me a Sahajya for this kind of stuff. You know, they call me they call me like a speculator and all this stuff, you know. And the same people that would focus all their attention on their fucking dogs and on their, you know, their externalized bodily relatives and things more so than on Radha and Krishna internally. They would focus all this external attention on all these other people, and at the same time they're claiming that I'm a Sahajya because I'm emphasizing that Radha and Krishna don't need to be the goddess or god to be loved. I tell these, fuck off, people. If people who are saying this to me, I just tell them to fuck off now. Get out of my face. It's like, you're imposing the condition that Radha and Krishna need to be the supreme on them. You just get out of my presence. Get out of my face. I don't want to talk to you or interact with you if you see them that way. You know, if you're imposing conditions on them that you're not even imposing on, you know, a piece of bacteria that's infecting your body. You know what I mean? It's fucked. This world is really fucked in terms of how they're seeing Radha and Krishna these days. Really fucked up. And this must change. This is I don't understand why people keep missing this. Ayendra Prabhu was loud and clear about this in every single one of his lectures across the board, top to bottom, all over the place. This is why he engaged in Harinama Sankirtana continually, eternally. It's these points that he kept bringing up over and over and over again. And for whatever fucking reason, it never seemed to register. Everybody kept processing it as, oh, Ayendra Prabhu is just saying this because that's his eternal mood, because he's a Manjari, because he's with Radharani. Oh, isn't that nice? Because that's his personal mood towards them. Oh, it's a sweet little thing, but it's not the actual absolute truth. The absolute truth is ultimately blah, 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 that Radha and Krishna are the supreme goddess and the supreme god, and that's the highest truth, in spite of our personal loving moods towards them, which are actually deeper than that perception of them. But they're not really deeper. They're actually just sentiments. They're just emotions and moods. Give your moods towards them more credit, for fuck's sake. Give your affection towards them more credit, goddammit. Give your visions and the way they reciprocate with you more credit than that. My God. I mean, it's just, you're continuing. People worldwide, they're continuing to see Radha and Krishna like that. And that's the source of all the world's problems, man. It's this idea, that's where it starts, and then it leads into all the other crap, the Brahmavadi and all this. It leads people to have the globe earth model idea and all these other stupid fucking ideas that are just so dumb. Like, why? Why do you people still think the earth is a fucking globe? Why do you keep thinking this, goddammit? Why can you not see in your minds, based on the descriptions, based on what's obvious and easily provable? Why can you not see this? The earth is flat, circular, and extends vastly across this cosmos. Why can you not internally see this, people? And why can you not see how this correlates with Sri Radha's glories being spread? Why can you not make the fucking connection between the two? I'll tell you exactly why you can't make the connection. Because you think that she has to be the supreme goddess and Krishna has to be God. That is why you can't make the fucking connection. That is why you're not making the connection. That's why you can't fucking see her encoding. That's why you can't see her on a daily basis. That's why you can't see her in you, in other people. You can't see what she's saying to you, telling you. You can't see it because you see them that way, goddammit. This is why the map isn't being made clear to you. This is why the visuals internally aren't being made clear to you. Because you're seeing them in ways that are insulting. So, Hare Krishna. So, 108 comments at this exact second, this exact moment. It's no coincidence. 108 comments just now when I looked at the comments. Right when Radha Abhiram Das Agori types that. The earth is flat, no arguments. To deny this is to deny the authority of Srimad Bhagavatam, and if we're going to deny the authority of Srimad Bhagavatam, we may as well fucking kill ourselves because our life isn't worth a piss. Yep. And people are already killing themselves because they don't understand this common sense logic. I'm going to laugh hysterically, and it's going to terrify people when they come back to me after all these fucking years, and then they start asking me about Sri Radha. Then they start asking me about these connections. Oh, how is Sri Radha actually connected to the flat earth? And now why is this important? Even though you talked to us about this the last 20 fucking years. And we denied you and we didn't listen to you. We scoffed at you and we made fun of you and we caused you insane amounts of pain in your heart and mind. Now we're coming back to you and now we're going to ask you about the truth. And I'm going to be like, you know what? I frickin' love you, my friends, and now you're going to understand everything, and now I'm going to shove into your mind every fucking detail about your eternal form, who you are, what your relationship with Radha and Krishna is, and you're going to experience such insane pleasure that you're going to be terrified how pleasurable it is. And you're going to thank me at the end of it, and I'm expressing it like this to terrify you now, to understand and to make clear for anyone in the future who tries to deny or treat the devotees cruelly, who present these same truths, to never, ever, ever treat devotees cruelly who present the truth like this to you, ever again. And you will understand, and you will fall into tears of ecstasy, and you will be insanely overwhelmed by affection and understanding everything in detail. That you will be seen as a psychopath. You will be seen as a madman and a nut job on every level. You will be seen as autistic, crazed, psychotic, horrific. You'll be seen as a criminal and a demonic individual because of how much you see. And I will guarantee it that this is what's going to happen. And never again will devotees who are soft-hearted, loving, and affectionate be mistreated again. Not on my watch. Nope. I will call people out and I will scream against them and terrify them so that they properly treat loving devotees. They don't have to treat me loving and affectionate. No. I'm going to be the terrifying source of bringing people to actual deeper truths that will uplift them. I like to speed things up. I like to get shit rolling. I like to get the ball moving, all right? I'm not about pussyfooting around and waiting around for things to clarify or putting up with devotees being mistreated and talked to unkindly or cruelly who are presenting the actual truth about Sri Radha, about her glories, about her affection for us. I'm not about just sitting to the sidelines and saying, oh, that's just a nice little mood over there. No, that's a pure devotee right there. That's a person who knows what they're talking about. That's a person who is speaking the truth and living the truth. Andrew Prabhu. That's who Andrew Prabhu is. I love you very much, my friends, very much so. It's very true. I can never express it in words. What I can do, all I can do, is do my best to get these feelings and uplifting sensations across as much as possible. People want information. I can give them information all day and night and all week and all month on things like this. If you want information. I'm not interested in all the constant giving of information, though. It's about loving affection towards their forms. Why does that need so much information? Why does that require so much evidence and so much constant evidence, which we constantly provide, which we constantly show? Even when we provide the evidence and even when we provide the details, people still aren't seeing it. The information's all there. You want all the little mathematical details of every little micro point of their forms, and we can give you that. That's no problem. But you're still going to keep seeing them as temporal forms if you keep using your fucking intellect. You're never going to actually appreciate Radha and Krishna if you keep doing this, if you keep seeing them as needing to be the supreme. The scriptures are written for everyone. They're written for the people who need to see them as supreme and the ones who don't at the same time. They'll always be written this way. But people in the world, don't you dare mistreat the devotees who are focusing on the intimacy with Radha and Krishna beyond that supremeness. Don't you dare accuse them of being sahajas or mental speculators or any number of things under the sun. Don't you dare do that to devotees who are really focusing on the heart level with their deeper connection. Don't do it. Because I can guarantee you the devotees who are doing that have understood the import and the purport of the scriptures. Some of them have been well read and read the entire Shastras. Some have not. But that doesn't matter. You can read the entire scripture millions of times over and still not understand the deeper intimacy with Radha and Krishna while maintaining the Vasudeva conception. Why do you think so many yogis and sages in the past did that? Why do you think so many maintained that goddamn monism tinged with devotion idea? It's because they kept going back to their fucking thinking process about it. So they never actually became pure devotees. Because they always kept thinking, oh, there must be something else. There must be something other than Radha and Krishna's forms that are equally supreme with them or that they emanate from. Something other, something, whatever that may be. It has to be something else. And then they also thought, on the ones who weren't that stupid, they still got trapped into thinking, oh, the absolute truth is both impersonal and personal. Then that's the truth. Fuck that idea. With that idea, you'll never love in love and affection the forms of Radha and Krishna. Radha and Krishna's gorgeous forms, their gorgeous hips, thighs, face to face, their lips, their eye structure, you're never going to appreciate those things as long as you think that the impersonal absolute is equally true to their forms. It's like spitting in their face. It's like standing right in front of their space and spitting in front of their face. That's literally what that is. And due to that offense, those sages who are perfect in every other way, mystic powers, materially speaking, etc., and even if they make it to Goloka, and even if they interact with Radha and Krishna on occasion, they don't ever actually appreciate Radha and Krishna for who they are. They may as well just go to Goloka and spit in the faces of Radha and Krishna and then come back here instead of doing anything else, as if they actually appreciate Radha and Krishna. You can get to the point where you can actually make it to Goloka, interact with them, and come back and forth, and still not be a pure devotee. You heard me right? Yeah. You can get to that point. You can mystically develop up to that level. That's not pure devotion. That's the branch off Goloka. That's not Goloka. That's all pervasive. That's 24/7, the Ashtakali Alilas. No. That's the Goloka Vrindavana in the Brahmajyoti. The branch off airport terminal Goloka. That the sages think they're in the original Goloka, but they never make it there. Radha and Krishna dupe those sages to think they're actually in Goloka. They're not. They're not in Goloka. Because Radha and Krishna are like, well, you're spitting in our faces. We love you in affection all the same, but you don't really love us that much. So, if you don't love us that much, we're not going to force you to be where we are. So, we'll let you come to a place you think is Goloka, interact with us, and then go back to the material world. And then we'll increase your false pride, thinking that you've face-to-face talked with us and interact with us. So you can keep teaching your monism tinged with devotion bullshit, misleading the entire world. And then basically the devotees who are actually intimate with us will not buy your crap, and they'll be the only ones that'll actually make it here. Yeah. Radha and Krishna know all these things. They know what's going on in these sages' minds and hearts. So, well, here's the thing. Radha Abhiram Dasagori, to read too many books is harmful, bhakti is the heart. Reading too many books, one way or the other, doesn't make any difference. Doesn't make any difference. You could read books all day. Here's the thing. Reading of books is supposed to inspire us in this way. I've read, and in the process of reading Chaitanya Charitamrita right now, I've read Srimad Bhagavatam up and down over and over again. And I've read all of Prabhupada's other books, so many other different scriptures. Tons of reading I've done. And I will eternally continue to read. But the point is, even without a single text read, even without one single piece of proof ever shown to you anywhere, you can still be a pure devotee of Radha and Krishna just by that direct heart connection. You don't need the evidence or the proof and stuff. The evidence and the proof and all this stuff backing it all up is just for us damn idiots who don't have the common sense logic to have that register initially. If you're already registering what the fact is, you don't have to read. But then what you will do is you'll read so that you can help others and explain things to others. You'll read for the benefit of others to help them understand, and because you'll be connecting with Radha and Krishna also through the reading. So it's not that it's not that reading in and of itself, huge numbers of books by itself is bad. It's just a matter of what are you doing and what conception do you have towards Radha and Krishna when you're reading. It comes down to this, and it's very simple. Whatever core conception you have towards your relationship with Radha and Krishna initially, at the get-go, at the core of your heart, that is the conception you will tend to maintain the course of your entire life. No matter what you read, no matter what you look into, no matter what you hear, no matter what's presented to you. The reason for that is because that is the eternal relationship you have. Now, that eternal relationship can be experienced in the pure form, in Goloka, or it could be experienced in the spiritually conditioned form, which is excessively dependent on scriptural proofs, Krishna needing to be God, etc. What I've just screamed against here a few minutes ago. So our inspiration to keep, because many times people will come in with the other extreme. They'll come in, oh, we don't need to read ever anything, and they'll purposefully refuse to read. And this is another goddamn thing I speak against, because that's how scriptures get lost and forgotten. Scriptures must be maintained so that people can access the information in paper form, reading it. If all the pure devotees die on the planet, and if all the other devotees pass off, the books need to still be here, so that someone else can pick it up, read it, and understand their relationship with Radha and Krishna. Absolutely essential that books are promoted. So there's philosophies that are dangerous starting to spread out now, where there's too much emphasis on never reading at all, and not actually paying attention to what the scriptures will say. So you have the two extremes, everything needing to have 100% scriptural proof all the time to the excess extreme, which is completely ridiculous and stupid. And then the other side, which is just as stupid. Basically not needing to read much of anything, or just it's all just the internal emotions and feelings and stuff, and then reading is just completely eternally secondary, not important. No, it's neither of those extremes are actually the correct, healthy way to go about devotional service. You have to what degree your reading is inspiring you in your intimacy with Radha and Krishna, and to what degree your reading is causing you to see them face to face in front of you. To that degree, those activities are devotional and should continue being done. To the degree your reading is leading you to use your intellect more to process things, and the degree to which your reading is causing you to not see Radha and Krishna in front of you, their entire forms, to that degree, that reading should not be done. Because if that reading is misleading you from Radha and Krishna. This is how it works. So, what is the proof? What is the result of the reading? What is the immediate, instant result taking place as you're reading? Okay? Yes, wonderfully said. It's intellectualizing during Japamala is completely contrary to Japamala. How do I have the time? Because Radha and Krishna control time, and I prayed to them and said, let me have my entire days free to glorify you 24/7, to spread your glories, and to focus on my meditation on you continually, non-stop. I prayed for this, and this is what they gave me. Because they control everything. But here's what's going on. Devotees keep using these excuses. I don't have fucking time. I don't have time. I don't have time. I gotta make time. This bullshit. Bullshit. Krishna is the controller of time. It's his frickin' Sudarshana chakra, for fuck's sake. If you actually want time to glorify Radha and Krishna, to spend on your devotional service, they will give you the time. Just like they've given me the time. So don't give me this bullshit, my friends. I love you very much, but I don't want anybody giving me the bullshit that they don't have time to spend 24/7 on devotion to Radha and Krishna internally, amidst all your interactions and amidst everything you do. Welcome, Presley. Hare Krishna. This is the thing. Radha and Krishna control time, and they are also beyond time. Goloka Vrindavan is what? The ever-present eternal time. Oh. These 2 hours have been very interesting, and I'm very much feeling inspired today. I'm very glad the way they've turned out. I've gotten much more across than I ever expected I would in one presentation. So, people are always asking me, how do you have time like that? So how do you have time to focus on producing such long? How do you have time to go about your day so freely doing what you want to do and focus? because I've made it that way. I've prayed to Radha and Krishna for it. I've insisted on that I have time to do what inspires me in devotion. I pushed for it, nonstop, continually. You have to have force of will. You have to push for what you want in life. You cannot compromise. You have to actually pray for them, pray to them what you actually want. So, what is it you actually want? Do you want sexual pleasure to incredible degrees? Pray to them for that. Do you want free time all throughout the day? Pray to them for it. Do you want inspiration and devotion? Ask them for it. See, what I run into so many times is like, a lot of times people, they seem to express a lot of envy and anger towards me or resentment or something, that like they're mad that I've been given more free time than them or something. It's like, and I tell people, it's like, you people are bullshitting yourselves. You would be given easily as much free time as I have or more if you would just insist on what you actually fucking want in life and not compromise on it. Because you develop skills. You develop precision, pinpoint understanding of everything, so many things, to where you can adapt and you can generate income like it's out of fucking thin air. This is side effect stuff to devotional service. Money becomes a non-issue because it just flows into your hands like nothing, like not even an issue at all, like water. Money starts flowing into your hands like water, and flowing out like water too. What you need, you get what you need, and then what you don't need, what needs to be used in other ways, flows to other living beings. So you can focus more on your devotion and not get caught up in the money. Because they seem to think it's like a karma thing. Okay, because you're karma, you're blessed with being allowed to have time to do this stuff, and bullshit. It has nothing to do with karma. It has to do with what Radha and Krishna want for everybody. Varnashrama Dharma would give everybody this amount of free time every day. So people don't understand. They don't get that Varnashrama Dharma is what frees everybody's time up. Literally, it turns it to where your work is something you enjoy, and you literally will only spend like a couple hours a day doing that, unless you enjoy it so much you do it as a pastime. Like martial arts and stuff, I enjoy so much, and I teach it, and weapon crafting and everything else, survival, that for me it's play. So my work and my play are the same thing. You see what I'm saying? So I don't need to separate my work and my play. That is Varnashrama Dharma. That's how it works. There's no slaves. There's no abuse of women or children. There's no abuse of husbands either. There's no abuse. There's no interpersonal abuse in Varnashrama Dharma. None. Because everybody's doing what they enjoy doing. Because everybody's connected to Radha and Krishna. And what do Radha and Krishna do? When everybody's connected to them, they free everybody's time up. Devotees, they seem to keep like expressing to me like these weird ideas where it's like, okay, it's only if you have a certain karmic backing or pious backing that you'll be allowed free time in your life. Otherwise, you'll be forced to have to work or this or that, or be burdened with not having that. No, that's not how it works. It's because you're convincing yourselves that you have to keep doing these other things, and you're not adamantly, hellbentishly resisting them, that constantly, on less than ideal monetary situations, are being imposed on you. So where you're forced into doing work you don't want to do, you're forced into all these things because you're forcing on yourself by agreeing to the bullshit that's around you and not forcefully going against it. This is what I keep talking about against this goddamn effeminate nature bullshit that's going on right now, and it's spreading everywhere. The effeminate nature is not for the masculine consciousness. The effeminate nature tells you and convinces you you have to go along with the way society is set up and you have to accept it. Therefore, you have to work and you have to do this according to a certain way, blah, blah, blah. And you're subconsciously convinced of that because you've behaved in an effeminate, weak-ass manner internally and gone along with it. In your subconscious, you've gone along with that. And there, what happens? You get forced into these shitty jobs. You get forced into shitty living situations, having to live with shitty-ass people who aren't in line with you. Well, what have you done to yourself first? You've subconsciously convinced yourself you have to do it and go along with it, instead of aggressively resisting it and accepting the consequences, which then force things to go in your favor universally. Hiranyakashipu, the worst demon ever, what did he do? He forced the universe and he forced the demigods, he forced everyone to go along with his will. As demonic as it was, he insisted on his willpower creating his reality in the universe. He behaved in a very masculine way. Standing in one place for 125 of his years, 36,000 Earth years. That takes a lot of insane willpower and determination and masculine aggression to make that happen. You can't be a weak-ass little pussyfoot if you're going to be a Krishna devotee in a male body. You have to be the force that makes shit happen. You're going to meet resistance, nonstop, 24/7. You're going to get guilt-tripped by everyone around you 24/7. You're going to be accused of everything under the sun. You can't let it phase you. Because you know the truth of Radha and Krishna's mercy, and you can see how they want the world to be run, and you can see that everything you're doing on a daily basis is contributing to that. And that anyone and everyone who resists that will eventually fall and be destroyed by themselves, by their own choices, by default, and you will remain standing at the end, triumphant, victorious. Because you trucked on when everybody else flaked out. I meet resistance non-stop 24/7 all the time. To everything I'm wanting to do. Planting fruit trees all over the place, resistance non-stop. Sri Radha's actual glory is the flat earth map, a correlation, resistance constantly, non-stop. The importance of brahmacharya and celibacy as a very key principle of showing gratefulness to Radha and Krishna. I meet resistance non-stop for that. I meet resistance non-stop for every other facet of my life that I can think of. It's all about resistance. What does resistance do? It strengthens you. It makes your sinews stronger. It gives you more mental determination. They don't get it. It's just like this world in this temporal external plane, I behave in such a gritty, aggressive, forceful manner because that's what works, that's what gets stuff done, so that I can actually behave the way I prefer to behave, which is loving, free-flowing, super laid back, super calm. Okay? What people erroneously in this world would process as effeminate. So I just have to keep being aggressive. Pushy, pushy, pushy. Forceful. Push, push, push. Everywhere I go. To get stuff done. All because people aren't right now yet connected with their relationship with Radha Krishna in that flowing, intimate manner, because so they're not registering who people are beyond the bodily state. They're identifying them according to, okay, this person's a male, this person's a female, this person's a dog, a cat. They're this. They're looking at things like that, so they're not seeing who people are. So in a male body, people have this dumbass conditioning where it's, oh, if you're masculine, you have to behave in this world in a way that is very, very forceful to be processed and perceived as being masculine and to be accepted as such. It's complete. The whole material world is completely fucking backwards the way Goloka Vrindavana is and works. Varnashrama Dharma brings society closer to how Vrindavana works in terms of how things actually operate there in our eternal paradise home. And that translates to how society works on earth to a very tangible degree. This is Varnashrama. So people telling me that, oh, Varnashrama Dharma isn't necessary, we can just have Harinamas, they go together. Harinama Sankirtana doesn't go separately from Varnashrama Dharma, never. They're together, 100% of the time. Harinama Sankirtana comes first, always, then it follows Varnashrama Dharma, never the other way around. But they're all connected. You won't have worldwide Harinama Sankirtana with the correct perception without Varnashrama Dharma naturally happening with that. But what's been going on is we have all these wrong preachers and teachers teaching people incorrectly about what Varnashrama Dharma is. They're misleading people. So it's turning people away from Varnashrama Dharma, and that is the demonic agenda, to give people the wrong idea of what it is so they don't want to have anything to do with it. How many times have you been told by people, erroneously, that Varnashrama Dharma involves things being forcefully imposed on people? How many times have you been told that? How many times have you been told that Varnashrama Dharma involves women being forced into situations against their will that they don't agree with? Lies, lies, lies. That's all lies. None of that has anything to do with Varnashrama. None of it. Lies top to bottom. Liars. Varnashrama Dharma is the most uplifting social system that has ever existed, and it is the eternal human system that works. That is why the demons want to deflect people from it. 4, remember the number 4, intimacy forever. The 4 Varnas are connected with the intimacy we have with Radha and Krishna. They're not just some external thing. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu made very clear that the first step up to pure devotional service was Varnashrama Dharma. Real Varnashrama Dharma, though. He says, if Varnashrama Dharma, the external version, is not used in relationship to connection with Radha and Krishna, it remains an external principle. So I'm not interested. If Varnashrama is by itself, without Harinama Sankirtana, internal devotion. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu accepts Varnashrama Dharma as it applies to pure devotion internally amongst the practitioners. Then he accepts Varnashrama Dharma. But the misteachers, the mispreachers about Varnashrama Dharma that treat it as an external principle only are the ones misleading people. And that's the Varnashrama Dharma Chaitanya Mahaprabhu rejected. The version of Varnashrama Dharma that is separated from the internal moods each individual has towards Radha and Krishna on a daily basis, 24/7. How are you supposed to go about your life in this world, meditating on Radha Krishna 24/7, if you're constantly putting yourself in situations where you're forced to do things you don't want to do. You can't be 24/7 absorbed in Radha Krishna in your relationship with them in a calm, soothing, streamlined manner. You can't, because things are being imposed on you. So Varnashrama Dharma frees you up from those impositions so that you have no excuse whatsoever. I mean, we don't have an excuse now, but you especially have no excuse in a Varnashrama situation. So if somebody tries to use the excuse, oh, I can't meditate on Radha and Krishna throughout the day because I'm a Kshatriya and I have to practice hunting and fighting and combat and stuff. Well, hey, got news for you, buddy. I do the same things. I have to practice those things too. I hate the fact that I have to shoot and practice hunting animals. I can't stand hunting animals. It's my least favorite thing in the world. But I can still do that and be absorbed in my relationship with Radha and Krishna all the same, because I have to teach people how to do this stuff correctly. My interest is in the internal stuff. So it's like, I got news for you, friends. If you're trying to say that, okay, my daily work or my daily situations are challenges and interfering with my Krishna consciousness and causing problems, then you need to get rid of that shit. You need to give that shit up and throw it out of your life so you can be in a situation where you can focus on them 24/7 and not be distracted. Stop making excuses and justifications for family and for this and that. Just knock it off. It's the excuses everybody keeps using. Use your internal, eternal common sense and understanding of these principles. Because when you're engaged in Varnashrama Dharma, you have no excuse not to be meditating on Radha Krishna every day. So if somebody in that system were to come up and say, you know what, I can't meditate on Radha Krishna because I have to practice this warfare and this political stuff, and I have to do this and I have to do that, that's a complete bullshit argument. It's like, why are you coming up with the excuse to where these external things are going to have any effect on your internal meditation whatsoever? Why would externals have effect on your internal meditation, which is transcendent? It's all excuses. People have used them historically even too. They tried to use those excuses why they couldn't engage in pure devotion. Dhritarashtra tried to pull it off. I'm so absorbed in my affection for my family and sons. And Vidura was just on him about it. He was like, you know what? You're bullshitting yourself, Dhritarashtra. You're bullshitting me and everybody else around you. You can meditate on Krishna 24/7 internally, and you can serve him and go along with what he wants. But you're choosing not to. You're choosing to focus on the external and separate that from your internal meditations. Vidura called him out on it over and over again. He knew what was up. And so many of the pure devotees brought this up. Let's see, here we go. A lot of comments I wasn't able to see yet. Let me see here. Okay. Kamadevadas is spiritual sound that came from the spiritual. Please tell us about how Imagine goes along with when Prabhupada says always think of Krishna. Nitai, my friend, I've just told you how to do that many times over. Remember? I'm going to be on you about this, Nitai. Start exercising your memory of what we've discussed. Don't forget this stuff anymore. Krishna is the cause of knowledge, memory, and forgetfulness, but you need to say, hey, Krishna, stop letting me forget these things that we've been talking about. Make sure I remember these things that we discuss, because I've explained these things over and over again, many times. I've answered these questions over and over. So you know more. You've watched probably more videos than anybody else has on these things and stayed on longer than anybody, Natai. So you of all people should know this information and know the answers to these questions by now. And I'm saying this out of affection. You definitely have no excuse not to know these things anymore. Okay, so Manasi Seva Nitai Prabhu. You can serve them within your own mind. For instance, you can visualize yourself rubbing Sri Radha's sweet lotus feet. Exactly. And it's so, here's the thing. It's so simple. It's not complicated at all. Sri Siddha Krishnadasa, he had a disciple who he was teaching how to internally meditate on Radha and Krishna, right? And within the heart and stuff, in his ashrama. He's the one who compiled Bhavanasara Sangra under Sri Radha's direct appearance instruction to do so. So this is a eternal associate of Sri Radha, not someone to be messed with in terms of like considering him just some random devotee off into the side. No, this is one of the acharyas. In 1870, so around this time, after he had compiled this book, and Sri Radha had actually appeared to him and cured him of his blindness and gave him prasadam directly from her own hands, he started teaching and establishing this school under her own instruction and will to show people how to serve Radha and Krishna internally within the mind and heart. So, okay, you're going to serve Radha and Krishna according to how you naturally feel inclined to serve them, and he would help them in their meditations. So they would be like, okay, and then what happened was one disciple of his, actually got set. He said, I got fixated on the hand of Sri Radha.
I was putting a ring on her hand, and I got fixated on the appearance of her hand, and I couldn't meditate on any other visual all day long. So therefore, he said, meditating on Sri Radha's hand, the form of her hand, distracted me from being able to serve her in other ways, because her hand was so beautiful. And Sri Siddha's response was, "You're doing perfectly fine." That was his response. He says, "You're 100% doing things correctly." Now, what does that tell you? It means that meditation on her form is the most important factor, even more so than the services you do for her and Krishna. Appreciating her form is more important. Now, that's trippy. That is a very deep, deep contemplation right there. Because most people think it's the other way around. They think, in most cases, that serving Radha and Krishna with the actions of service is more important than loving and appreciating their forms, whatever result that might lead to. So if you're appreciating Radha and Krishna's forms and you're stunned and you can't serve them in other ways due to appreciating their forms, that's actually the deeper meditation than being able to continue serving their forms and not being fixated on their form. Now, you could also be fixated on their form, and they could arrange and allow you to keep serving them in other ways, but Radha and Krishna personally will arrange case by case for each individual. If they stun you to where they want you to keep fixating on their hand or their foot or their eyes or something, or they will allow you to be stunned meditating on their form while you're going about serving them. While you are stunned with their form, but you're going about, and they're empowering you to serve them while being stunned on their form. So the point is, though, appreciation of their form visually internally is the absolute deepest, most important factor. People who are blind externally with their eyes can also do this internally and visually and have dreams and all this other type of stuff. They can see Radha and Krishna's forms too. So Sri Siddha Krishna Dasa was actually, he went to the state of becoming physically externally blind, but he was actually 100% internally absorbed in Radha and Krishna's pastimes, non-stop, to the point where he stopped eating, he stopped drinking water with the external body, and he went externally blind altogether, but he saw Radha and Krishna 24/7 internally, and he never stopped seeing them, even though externally he went blind. You know, absolutely amazing. Just, it brings you to tears thinking about how intense and how real this devotion is. You know, yeah, very powerful stuff. So I'm going to read the rest of your statements here. Let's see here. Manasi Seva Puja that I use for my Shalagram Gaudara. Yes, very powerful stuff. Aged as children, sort of like how I interact with people in kindergarten. Exactly. Beautiful. Beautiful. My God. Wonderful meditations. This is truth, my friends. This is it. Be ye like children. The statement is so profound. On extremely deep levels. Far beyond the temporal. And within the transcendence, she wants us to understand this statement and what this means. The full depth of what these words mean. More so in a way that our imaginations are still wild. Yes. There's so much more to say about this. But you have to understand this on extremely deep levels. Because the external plane is designed to bring us back into that eternal, transcendental reign. When you're walking in those fields of Raja, when you're seeing their forms, you understand the significance of their beauty and what Krishna consciousness means. This consciousness is love for their beauty and seeing them internally throughout the day makes everything in life work smooth and okay. Everything is very smooth, and things will work for you in your favor because they understand that your consciousness is wanting to help the world understand them, and that they understand that when others do see them, that they will understand these things. They'll understand all the sciences. They'll understand how the world works. And the pure devotees' messages to us is that they understand how everything is operating according to the movements of their hands and feet, their voices. So when they walk into the center of that circle, them dancing and singing and talking with each other and looking at you face to face, that is what is moving everything, top to bottom on all levels. That is what's moving Goloka. That is what's moving the Vaikuntha realms. That is what's moving matter at every moment. Is the dancing of the rasa dance, the Goloka Vrindavana. It's their smiles, their words, their affection throughout the day, the 8 time periods of the day. We're supposed to meditate on them in every way at all these moments. So in the morning, they go out to their own homes and do their things, and then everybody interacts with them. They come back in the afternoon, they unite again. Throughout the rest of the afternoon, they're going and getting ready for dinner to watch plays and to interact with everyone like that. And then in the evening, when that comes back around, what they do is they unite again, and that is when the truths about Radha and Krishna come forth. And Krishna learns ever new things about her that she never understood, and she learns ever new things about him that she never understood. And then we're all doing our different things. Some people are arguing in different places. Others are, have their different moods. And this is what's happening amongst us. Even right now, this computer that's sitting in front of my face. These devices that are holding in front of our hands. This is just a branch off of those pastimes. It's a stream. The way it works, the sine wave, these eightfold daily pastimes, they operate how cell phones work. They operate how these devices we're using work. They move what we see constantly. So it goes back and forth. You are in situations where sometimes you're really furious. Other situations you're laughing like crazy. And others you're crying like a nut job. And then on the external plane, and this is happening in Goloka actually. Everybody thinks you're nuts. Even on that level, even in Goloka, people think you're a nut job. It's insane. It's awesome. It's amazing. Just how this works. And then when the pure devotees, when Ayendra Prabhu, when Prabhupada, when Bhaktisiddhanta, when Vamshidas, Haridas, and all these other devotees, when they externally experience their relationship with Radha and Krishna, no one on the external plane understands what's actually going on. But the other devotees who see Goloka do understand what's going on. They see what's happening. They can see the interaction that's taking place. They can see the dance movements. They can see they can see the light and how it shines off of the pillars and off of the bed and everything else. They can see these things very clearly. And it's amazing. It's so it's uplifting on so many levels. Like, I can't even describe it, you know? It's just, I'm trying to do my best to describe how wonderful, how awesome it actually is. And it's very real, legitimate. Like you can experience this stuff daily. You don't have to wait like 30, 40 plus millions of years to just get around to meditating on these things, because they lay it right in front of us, what they're doing every day. And so you can be there in Goloka, you can be there, and you can relay this to others. Talking about Radha and Krishna's glories to others is you doing your services to them in Goloka. It doesn't matter what state you're in. You could be the worst lustful debauchee on the planet and still talk about and relay their glories. That is your Goloka experience. That is who you are. It's relaying the wonders of them to other people. So this is absolutely incredible. You know, it's it's something amazing. You know, we can all easily experience on a daily basis. Most of us are eternally children in Goloka Vrindavan. Yes, it is true. Many of us are. And whatever our eternal form is, we eternally have the eternal mood of being children, no matter what, even in those adult forms. That's the thing. Don't complicate it. Children don't complicate things. They use their imaginations. They use their creativity. They use their originality, and they don't hold back. That is the consciousness of children that Sri Radha wants us to have. She's the mother of all living beings. She's the beloved and the mother. And that could be literal. You could literally be her hidden son in Goloka, or you could be one of the infinity of all the living entities who she is the mother of by principle and by relationship. Even if you're not in relationship of being her literal son, you are her son eternally, or her daughter. And this is how this works. And in this one, because I just want to keep going. I need to keep going with this, and because I need to have these internal visions myself. I need to actually access Goloka Vrindavana. I need to be able to see them, and the very least I can do is relay how kind they've been to me, to others, and letting everybody know we can all experience this on a daily level, that this isn't a sentimental thing. This is a very real experience. And it gives you great clarity for going about your day and your interactions in ways that you can see so clearly how everything operates, and the psychological movements of other individuals, and the why everyone is doing what they do. You can see it related to their svarupa, their eternal form. You see little birds and squirrels walking around, and, you know, cats and dogs, and you can see the personality within those, each one of them. You can see the unique features in each of them that never leave the person, and you can get glimpses into who they are with Radha and Krishna. It's very amazing. Those are correlations. Yes, Nitai, you picked up on that. Those are actually very much so correlations with how, when things manifest through matter, the right brain and the left brain in the middle. That's actually, you're correct right there, and that is actually that's how things translate to material conditioning originally. And we reverse the process, and then the right brain is the most advantageous connection to Radha and Krishna, specifically to Sri Radha, to understand the realm of Vrindavana. What we just said is rejoicing voice that let Prabhu name take care of all. Hare Krishna. 1,000 years of peace and evolution is just right around the corner, like a ladder where we build up our perception of the world until we're looking around and we see the beautiful world of Christ. Exactly. That is the 1,000 years that's talked about also in the scriptures of the 1,000 years of Christ. That's actually the 1,000 years that's going to really kick in the 10,000-year golden age of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And I'm very much looking forward to this day. That's going to happen after the marking and after the beast stuff takes place. And we'll come out triumphant for sure. We'll come out triumphant for sure. My friends, it's not about advancement. It's not about levels. It's not about any of these things. Each one of you individually, eternally, right now, has that eternal connection with Radha and Krishna and all their associates, all their pastimes. You are eternally grateful in that consciousness, and that maintaining focus on your gratefulness is the key to feeling ever more grateful and more appreciative, and naturally feeling humble and things like that. They just will naturally flow. On the external plane, we may have to behave in so many ways, so many forceful, aggressive ways, and we may need to engage in warfare, philosophical warfare, standing our ground in so many cases. But internally, maintain a soft heart internally. Maintain that calm, free-flowing mood internally at all times. So, we may very well be able to be there throughout the entirety of 1,000 years with the life extension tech that is coming and available, made available by Radha and Krishna. This can be used, and this can actually extend the life for those huge numbers of years. Because it's not going to be like Kali Yuga anymore. In Dvapara Yuga, people lived 1,000 years regularly. So Radha and Krishna are arranging that we are going to soon have access to technology that can actually extend our life to the lifespans of previous ages, at least to Dvapara Yuga, 1,000 plus years. But of course, there's going to be warfare still. So even if someone does live 1,000 years, they can still end up leaving their bodies in combat or in fights. So yes, the combat and fighting part will cause us to leave our bodies whenever that takes place. But our youthfulness can easily be maintained throughout all those years. Krishna devotees even now regularly live longer than people in terms of maintaining their youth. You'll see Krishna devotees in their 50s, 60s, 70s plus, and they'll still look like they're not much older than 40 or thereabouts, you know. I've seen this in many cases. So that tech's coming in sooner than you think, but much sooner than you think. And it's one of the things, thankfully, I'm at the forefront of researching and involved in. Supplementation, how hormones work and things. So amidst all these presentations I give on Krishna consciousness directly, transcendental topics, you have to understand everything material is directly connected to the transcendental. So there's all the sciences are understood clearly and correctly when Radha and Krishna's forms are kept within the mind and heart 24/7. So when you maintain focusing on their forms, you can see how music works, how art works, how proportions work, how the sciences also work, how the hormonal system operates, the liver, you know, the internal organs, liver, kidneys, heart, etc. These can all be seen. You can understand, you can see how molecules operate and work, because they all work off of Goloka Vrindavana's Ashtakaliya Leelas. And this is what's amazing about it. The sciences are not complicated to understand. They're very simple, actually. So this life extension tech and the that which is involved in it being required is not a complicated science, to the degree that we keep Radha and Krishna at the center of focus and at the forefront of our thoughts. Well, I'm not claiming I'm in ecstasy, Prabhu. So if I were to claim that I was in ecstasy, that would be a different thing. I'm just feeling intense emotions, and that's all. People can judge for themselves if that's ecstasy or not, but I will not claim one. I won't claim one way or the other. I'm just feeling emotional. That's all. So, when something is transcendental ecstasy, my friend, it will be known as such to those who are connected to it, or it will be known as not being that, being emotional feelings. But feeling emotions for Radha and Krishna also is not a bad thing either. There's nothing. Feeling emotions for Radha and Krishna in their pastimes is always a good thing, whether it's actually transcendental ecstasy or the initial phases leading up to it and getting there. Most of the time, you see me rarely. I rarely express emotions like this in videos. I rarely let them be seen like this, simply because they get misprocessed as, you know, effeminate, weak, just, you know, things along those lines, and or just, you know, artificial, subconsciously trying to convince people of ecstasy, etc., things like that. But I'm really not worried about what people are thinking about. If I'm crying or if tears are flowing, they're just flowing. It's, you know, whatever. If I'm talking about Radha and Krishna's pastimes and tears are flowing, then they're flowing. People can see me as a Sahajya. I don't care. That's fine. They can see me as being in ecstasy. That's also fine. Because it really doesn't matter what others think about the tears. What matters is, are Radha and Krishna actually loving me unconditionally? Or I should say, am I actually tapping into Radha and Krishna's unconditional affection? Am I doing that on my own level? And we ourselves can judge for ourselves if we're doing that personally. Because we're not the judges of any other living being. It's not my position to judge you, or to judge Radha Abhiram Das or Presley or anyone else, or vice versa. because all of the reality and transcendence is internal, within the heart. So no living entity can say or tell what another living entity is internally experiencing. Never. Because each individual is eternally individual and unique. So, you know, whether something's emotional or genuinely transcendental it's really neither here nor there at the ultimate end of the day, because it's individual for that person. So, and if to see, we don't have to do trial and error. I'd faint. Rupa Sanatana and Saraswati Prabhupada ended their lecture. Yes, and most of the time, when I've even gotten emotional, I tend to end the discussions. But in this case, no. It was like, this time I need to keep going forward, no matter what. The more you hide it, the stronger. Well, here's the thing. I do hide it and make a point to, but I don't go out of my way to hide those things. You know, because that's not my focus. My focus isn't on how are people perceiving the tears or not. It's more or less, that's how I'm feeling in the moment right then and there, and that's what I'm gonna allow myself to be absorbed in. So, but yeah, you'll get all this stuff. You know, I mean, purposefully going out of your way to advertise, hey, look, here's tears, or hey, look, here's emotions, and whatever. That type of thing is definitely not the symptom of ecstasy and stuff. Like, when ecstasy is there, it just naturally will happen or not. There's no need to like specifically say, oh, look at the tears, this is ecstasy, I'm trying to show you that this ecstasy is, stuff like that. If people know and are able to pick up on it, they can tell when something is ecstasy or not. They can feel it beyond the temporal plane. And if they know it's emotional and not ecstasy necessarily, they can also feel it. So I know that devotees can pick up on who I am and what I'm really getting at. I know they can pick up on it, so I'm not worried. Especially the ones watching right now, I know you're very much intuitive individuals and can see beyond the external displays of things very well. So what I'm going to do, one moment. That's right. So the thing is not to get overly caught up in hiding tears or not hiding them or whatever. But also the thing is just making sure that we're internally absorbed and centered and focused, because it's only the others who are very intuitive and empathic and very deep, whether they're male or female, they will not misprocess displays of emotion or tears or anything. They won't misprocess those things as being, okay, this is feminine or this is masculine. They won't look at it that way. They'll look at it and they'll focus on looking deeper into the situation instead of equating those emotions with who you are. Oh, that means you're weak, or that means you're this, or that means you're that. You're less masculine or whatever. It's understanding, okay, who is this person in reality? Like deeper, like beyond the external displays. Because the entire material world is all external displays, all of it. Whether it's tears, whether it's shouting, yelling, laughing. And the pure devotees, and to Prabhu, all of the other pure devotees, they would express all sorts of varieties of emotions. And eternally we express varieties of emotions. So it's not only tears that are symptoms of ecstasy, it's also fury and anger that can be a symptom of ecstasy. It's also deep, intense laughter. And it's also just being stunned in a neutral type state where you're not actually displaying any features externally, you're just sitting in meditation like this. That's also another aspect of transcendental ecstasy and the flow of emotions. So the point is, we're eternally living beings who have emotions and feelings, and eternally so. And this is a very good thing, which should be appreciated and embraced. We're eternally individuals, which means we have the full spectrum of emotions eternally. Even in Goloka, we feel, but in Goloka, every feeling and sensation is experienced as pleasurable and loving and affectionate. So even the so-called anger is loving and affectionate there in paradise. And it's appreciated just as much as the loving face-to-face smiling and stuff is also. Whereas in the temporal plane, there's a tendency for people to differentiate things. Okay, that's anger, so he's mad, he's angry. This separated over here is laughter and happiness. This here is tears of ecstasy. So people looking at all these things that, okay, tears of ecstasy automatically mean that's the only aspect of ecstasy. That's not accurate either. Ecstasy manifests in so many different ways beyond the temporal plane. And then it translates into the temporal plane in different ways. But But tears in and of themselves are not necessarily one way or the other a symptom of ecstasy. Someone may or may not have them, and vice versa. Someone may have tears all the time and not be in ecstasy, and all those things. So the point is, emotions come from transcendental emotions, the ones that are manifested temporally. Let's see. Listening with the heart. It's about listening with the heart to learn the truth in anything. Yes, exactly. I only said that statement because once this video gets billions of views, it'll have a lot of comments. We'll see. We'll see. It's probably, if this video lasts up until those days where this becomes mainstream and billions of people actually do take to this, it might be a situation where people actually do come back to these conversations we were having and be like, wait a minute, these things were being talked about way back then, and then everybody starts looking at them finally. That might happen. Who knows? Well, whereas, and it's a very likely possibility. It could happen that way, actually. That would be a really trippy day. I mean, really interesting, because it'll be like a complete opposite of what I've seen and experienced so far, where it's just like very small numbers of individuals, talking about these things and interacting. Because it's about the quality of the interaction. So I value one person talking with me deeply about this than I would value millions of people following me talking about it just for the sense of numbers. I value the actual face-to-face, one-on-one interactions more, infinitely more. Because that's what life in reality is about. It's about face-to-face, intimate interactions. Whatever they may be, whoever they may be with, face-to-face interactions up close are the essence of life. So, let's see. That's why children so easily go from laughing to crying to sleeping back laughing again. Exactly. Wonderful connection. There you go, Presley. See? That's it. You've got, that's exactly it. You see? And think about it. A living being entering a child's body, time frame wise, they're that much closer to having come either directly from Goloka or from their previous life, of whatever that life consisted of. In certain cases, it's a living entity actually coming directly from Goloka. Hare Krishna, Sri Radha is here, indeed. Yes. Wonderful. Jaya Sri Radha. And so, because the children are connected to their Svarupa that much more, and they're not as balled up or absorbed in external consciousness as much as adults become. Okay? And that's correlating with puberty and lustful developing and shifting over to an externalized perception of loving interactions versus the internalized loving versions of interactions, which children naturally tend to have inherently in them. See, where things are more internalized. So they go from laughing to crying to sleeping, and you being a mother, you know that very well, Presley. It's your little guy there, your little Nemo guy there, and so you know what I mean. But that's the whole point. And then when people grow older, they tend to lose that a lot of times, and then they start getting overly absorbed on the left side of the brain. Over intellectual things having to be proven, like too much skepticism and all this other stuff, and that really creates a very challenging disconnect from transcendental appreciation from what they would have had as a kid. Wuthering Heights, I do. Yep, there you go. So, God, these conversations, these last few, have just been going on for hours and hours. I plan to have them an hour or less, but I just get caught up in them. Because this is what life's about, having these types of discussions, having these types of things going on. This is what I would rather talk to people about, that I go about, interacting with throughout the days. I'd rather discuss these things, on a regular basis in the midst of what I'm doing. But I run into this a lot, and I notice this. It's another symptom of temporal conditioning where most individuals in the world, they'll have to separate or segment. Okay, we're doing this one thing right now, then after we're done we can start focusing on Radha and Krishna. But it doesn't need to be like that. It can very easily just be in the midst of what else is happening. Radha and Krishna's forms of pastimes, personalities are being discussed and talked about, which is what we're doing eternally anyway, in the midst of those activities. Because here's the thing, if someone's actually seeing Radha and Krishna, their external activities aren't going to distract them from discussing them and talking about them more and more. They won't. But if someone isn't actually seeing Radha and Krishna, that's where they face the issues of, okay, now I'm distracted, now I have to separately talk about Radha and Krishna, because they're not actually seeing them properly, right in front of them, which we're supposed to see them in front of us like that all the time. Now, didn't see the movie yet, message. 7 versions.
Once again, there's the 7 number. That 7 always associated with information, flow of information, water, and currency, and monetary flow, all in one sweep. Every time we see 7 referring to those things. Sapta. And what's really interesting about this is sapta. The word sapta is connected to the word septic, for septic, like where things are flowing, right? So it's referring to like liquidity and the flowing of things. So it's because 7 is always referring to information itself. There's always the one correlation with that word septic comes from that sapta, which is from the number 7, the flow of water. So it's interesting that word correlation, how it's still associated with like water and flow directly and literally even to this day. You know what I mean? Whereas a lot of the information that's flowing out throughout the world is a lot of septic tank quality information and stuff. You know, septic in most, like poisonously sewage-like in most ways. So, yep. So what would you like to talk about, my friends? Last 3 that are viewing on here. I think Presley and Atai, maybe one other person right now. For like the next half hour or so. Anything in particular you want to finish up on with this? Always free for sadhusanga with us? Well, here's the thing. I'm always free, but a lot of the day I choose to prioritize my time in very different ways. So my days are very free, yes, and because I've made them that way. I insist that my days are free. But in terms of me prioritizing doing these videos and stuff, it all depends on in what way. I enjoy prioritizing doing these videos and stuff and presenting this information, but I have to be in the zone, in the mode, and just ready to present, ready to talk, and ready to discuss. Because when I get in the zone, I really get in the zone, like a lot for this. Whereas a lot of the other times I'm practicing skills, I'm practicing crafting, and I'm practicing all sorts of different things. Scriptural study, historical study, monetary flow, all sorts of things I'm studying a lot throughout the day. So I need to basically just, I very much have to prioritize my time. Otherwise, I end up doing one thing for too long of a period of time if I don't actually do it like that. So, like, I get addicted to these. I really get addicted to these discussions. I get addicted to talking for hours and hours on end about this stuff. Because there's just so many things running through my head that I want to discuss and relay and everything else. And certainly not the skeptics. There you go. Exactly. See, it's related to philosophy. See, wonderful. I was waiting for one of you to actually pick up on that. Yep, it makes things stagnant and boring. That's why I don't mind to be considered crazy. Who else is going to take the leap into the lion's den of ridicule? To honor that truth, there is to learn. Certainly not the skeptics. Exactly. In the beginning of this video, we were actually making fun of the skeptics, how they have a ideology, which is basically where their skepticism itself is what they see as basically the highest thing. Subconsciously, they see that as the highest thing. So where they always put their faith in their doubt itself more than everything else. And that's what actually traps them. So they literally remain trapped worshiping their own doubt process as the highest thing. It doesn't matter how much information you give to them if they basically, as long as they keep seeing their doubt itself as the highest principle, they'll remain agnostic. Because doubt for them is basically their God. Doubt or skepticism is God for them, basically. Yep. Knowledge may be a thing that they're into, but they're interested in knowledge for the sake of the knowledge itself, not actually understanding what the knowledge leads to or means, but for the sake of gathering knowledge so that they can maintain their doubt as the supreme thing. Skeptic is connected to the word septic also. Very interesting. See? Just with the K. You notice how that comes from sapta, information, so 7 false ideologies, septic tanks, and then skeptic. See? It's all connected. Skepticism, one of the other false ideologies. The homie. Oh, it just happens. Right. People are always, they're going around, they're like, okay, yep. Like, there's no way stuff is encoded like that. There's no way that music song is encoded. There's no way that movie's encoded. Oh, it just also happens somehow. This is really weird to me how a lot of devotees are seeing this. I just don't understand why so many devotees seem to see it this way. Okay, there's Radha and Krishna's pastimes, and then there's the material world, and then stuff in the material world is just happening. It's just illusory stuff happening. And then somehow Radha and Krishna are just completely, eternally aloof only from material stuff, and like they have nothing to do with encoding, nothing to do with matter at all. It's just weird. It's like no, like matter's connected to Goloka and transcendence. That's why things happen here. So it's like you can see Goloka through matter, through stuff. You just have to see how and in what way, and how are you being uplifted and stuff. They want so much to be smart rather than already knowing that they already have the answers. Exactly. Especially since not many folk want to share their entire knowledge for fear of losing power. There you go. So
Yeah, great way to describe it. And notice this. Yeah, it's been it's been very interesting. So just we're going to see this all play out. How it plays out is going to happen according to our free wills. But everybody's going to start seeing how the flat Earth map is connected to Sri Radha's true glories, and how this is going to be versus literally every single other ideology throughout the world that's spiritual in nature or temporal in nature. It's going to be versus all of them, and it's going to throw them all out the water as ideologies that are going to hold any validity or weight whatsoever. So it's just the connection, and it's really interesting the way she's timed this and the way she has planned this out is extremely significant, because it's going to be huge. This is going to be literally one of the biggest things in all of history when the flat Earth becomes actual mainstream. Right now it's considered like there's a big chunk of the population that accepts it now, a big chunk, but it's still considered like a side thing, not the mainstream thing. But once this becomes confirmed to people, now the full map then gets exposed and people now see, holy crap, the Earth has been flat this whole time, flat and circular. There's lands beyond the Antarctic ice ring, and they're described in the Bhagavatam right here what we're going to run into if we go beyond these. People are going to be like, holy crapola. And then they're going to come here and they're going to be like, oh, this song was encoded, this was talking about this, how this flat Earth was connected to Sri Radha's glories, and they're going to put the two together. Well, what are the hidden things about Sri Radha's glories then that are connected to this flat Earth map? That's naturally what people are going to be curious about. Because we've been talking about it this whole time. It's like, okay, the flat Earth map is accurate. Wow, but think about it. It's going to be the biggest event in history, and Sri Radha's planned it this way. The flat Earth by itself thing will be like the biggest event in ages, like the last 500 plus years. It's going to change the whole world paradigm towards all this stuff. And then that's going to see how it's correlating with Radharani's personal glories, right? And think about how much more of an impact that's going to be than anything that's happened so far. So the flat Earth map, the biggest thing since anything that's happened since the false globe model became imposed on the world. And then now, holy crap, this flood of information about Sri Radha, her glories, her pastimes, her form and activities, correlating with each other. And now everybody's going to then see that Sri Radha has been the most accurate all along. That what she's been saying about everything, what she's been talking about, has been the most accurate information. So what is this going to do? It's going to boost everyone's faith in Sri Radha herself. And in Sri Krishna, naturally. It's going to boost their faith in them. Because they're going to be like, hey, Radha and Krishna, you were right about all this stuff. So what else are you right about? And people are just going to see it. Well, you're right about everything. Because you're literally laying us out the depth of information about everything, both all the material sciences and all the transcendental sciences together, at one clean sweep, about your forms, your personalities, and how you're the source of technology, etc., developing the way it is. And it's gonna mind-boggle people worldwide, and that's gonna be a really trippy day when that arrives. It'll be really interesting. We'll probably get bombarded with so many questions and people asking us stuff that we're probably gonna have to escape into a cave or something, just so we don't have to answer people 24/7 or interact constantly. So we have like private life or whatever. But we'll see. We'll see how exactly it plays out according to people's free wills. But my hope, my goal is, and what I know will happen, what I'm looking forward to the day, it's going to bring so much joy to my heart when you, Presley, when you, Nitai, when you, Robin, all these other devotees, Radha, Abhiram Das, when you all start relaying all these things to everyone else as well, it's just going to spread like wildfire to where everybody everywhere is just talking about this stuff. It's really going to transform the world into a paradise-like state for a long time. Yep. And that's because that's her plan. Streets will be paved with Gaura. Streets will be filled with Gaura. That's what the prediction was. So her predictions never prove false. They always play out exactly as she predicts, and in line with the free will. So they play out according to different varieties of those pastimes and predictions, but they always play out that way. So everyone to question the reality. Yep, exactly. And you say, I'll outright expose NASA and the public education system entirely. Yes. Good. I like that. That is sexy. I want to see that happen. I'm very excited to see what you have to expose all of them. Because we know they're false, of course. We know they've been exposed. But I love seeing people present it in really nice, hard-hitting ways that are just, see, like the proof and the validity. Yes, beautiful. That always brings joy to my heart. Which will cause everyone to question the reality. Were they ever taught right? Is anything real? That's what will be going through their minds exactly. And think about how much more faith that's going to boost in people regarding Radha and Krishna's teachings on all these things. It's gonna boost their faith like crazy. It's like, well, Radha and Krishna were the only two people not lying to us, whereas everybody else and all these other sources were either misled or directly knowingly lying to us. Whereas Radha and Krishna, they were giving us the accurate info the whole time. So people just weren't listening to them, or they were listening to them but not paying attention to what they were actually saying. Basically, cherry picking. Okay, Radha and Krishna say this here, I'll cherry pick that, but I'll ignore their flat Earth map that they've described and laid out in the scriptures for us. Or vice versa. Okay, I'll focus on the flat Earth map side of things, but I'll reject what Radha and Krishna are saying about themselves. It's just all this like cherry picking basically is what's been going on a lot. So everyone will look back to the stars away from AI. Yes, they'll look back to the stars and they'll be like, this is the reality. Radha and Krishna are there, out there, and in here, and this is how the universe operates above us. And the people will lose faith in the false demonic teachings entirely. And what that will lead to is AI will still be present and usable, but now it'll start getting used for the right reasons en masse. Like for understanding our true nature, our relationships with the Supreme Lord stuff. So then it'll start getting properly used. For once in history, tech will start getting properly used on a large scale, and this is going to increase the forces of devotees worldwide, and our influence and push on the world. This will increase by leaps and bounds because we're going to be in a situation where what we say and what we do is going to hold strong weight. There's still going to be opponents and stuff, but mostly what it's going to shift into is the opponents are going to be more like political opponents, more so than spiritual or ideological opponents. There will still be some of those too, but we'll have enough strength to actually resist them with like large numbers of people, like an actual force, like country-sized resistance, basically. On those scales, we'll have enough people with us on our side to resist on that level, which will be good. So we'll be a force to actually be reckoned with on all levels, basically. Spiritually, economically, politically, monetarily, all this stuff will be forces to be reckoned with. There's no doubt about it. It's inevitable because Radha and Krishna want their glories to be spread in the world they want to manifest. And so they'll remove and pluck out the bad cakes, the ones that aren't necessary here anymore, after a while. Yeah, the Goswamis did. All the Goswamis, they adhered to this standard solid Earth map. All of them. Because they said, okay, we're going along with exactly what the Bhagavatam describes. And that is exactly what the Bhagavatam describes. Flat, circular, all across the board, both for the greater Earth plane and for this little part of Earth. Because there's this popular trend happening now, which has been disproven and it's erroneous. There's a popular trend now spreading amongst a lot of devotees where they're saying, oh yes, now we're accepting the greater Earth map beyond the Antarctic ice is all flat and circular. Yeah, we accept that. But we're not going to accept that this little part of Earth is also flat and circular. We're going to insist that this little part is like the only little globe on the entirety of the Earth plane, and then everything else is flat. No, that's not how it works. It's not because when people go to Antarctica, they don't look up and see water above their heads. That is what you would see if you went to Antarctica. You would see water above your head if this little globe dot was above a flat Earth plane underneath. And of course, we know for a fact that the Earth's spinning around in space, and all the millions of galaxies idea is fake. That's fake. The Earth spinning around the sun is also a fake model. So there's so many things that are fake about it. Basically, what's happening now amongst a lot of devotees, they bought into this idea of, okay, they're thinking the Earth is still a little sphere circle. They're not. They've at least accepted the sun goes around the Earth, at least that. But they're still thinking that the Earth is a globe shape, and it's because the programming of the globe model is so insanely deep. It's literally programmed into the brain development of children, and this is a point that people overlook a lot. When something is developed into the brain development of a child, it's literally it's developed into their brain chemistry itself, to the point where they will defend those ideas and those vision and those models beyond all logic and reasoning, 100%, because it's ingrained in how their brain processes how they see things, like everything in the life and in their world and stuff. So that being the case, that's why a lot of these devotees are just really clinging on to that globe model for every last breath that they have. Oh, this little part of Earth right here is a globe still, but even all the rest of it's a flat plane, but we're still going to cling on to this one little single globe circle that's on top of the plane. And I just look at that and I'm like, you guys, you're missing it, you're not seeing it. So ultimately I'll have to just draw a diagram and physically show you guys how the refraction works off the atmospheric dome around this little part of Earth, so people can actually see visually. Okay, how does the sunlight, even though the sun's diagonally moving around us like this at a vast distance around us, a huge horizontal thing around us, and we're flat underneath diagonally from it, how does the light translate to where it shines and then it hits around the equator area as if it's directly above the equator, basically? How does that work? Well, I can show in a diagram how that would work. It's very simple. You can even show this. You shine a light at like a little half-glass dome, right, or that's filled with water or whatever. You shine it, and based on what you put inside of it, it'll refract the light in different ways. So the light will hit it, and then the light will bend downwards. So it's going to look like the light is above you when the light's actually diagonal. You can do this experiment with like a light on a little globe thing. It'll refract, it'll hit it, and it'll bend downwards. And that's really simple. It's how it works. It's not complicated. It's just the sun's going around because of the way the atmospheric dome works. We're seeing the sun as directly overhead when you're in the equator area, and differently elsewhere because of how it's refracting onto the surface. So you're seeing it as if it's directly overhead when it's actually way diagonally from you, not overhead. You're basically seeing Suryadeva's reflection onto that surface above us, more or less. That's what's going on. Because people they're thinking, oh, well, how do you explain it? It's not that complicated to explain. Same thing with the star rotations. Why is it that the stars go one way and when they go a different way? It has to do also with that atmospheric dome thing around us. So there is an atmospheric dome. Whether it's actually solid or not is the question. There is a dome, but it's only over this little part of Earth, and I'm not sold on the idea that the dome is actually solid. Some people think that. I don't buy it, though. If the dome was actually solid and it was that big of an event, it would have been mentioned somewhere in a scripture that the Asuras came, they put a solid dome around this part of Earth. And it also would have been mentioned if it was done earlier in history in the ancient texts. Okay, there's a solid dome around this little part of Earth, which hinders you from getting to the other parts. But that isn't specifically mentioned in the Vedas. So from what I'm seeing, it's an atmospheric dome that is really thick. And then once you get to the end of that Antarctic phase, you'll then hit the water again. You'll see water vast into the distance past that atmospheric dome. And then you'll see everything differently. Then you'll see the sun shining at a different angle. You'll actually see the sun diagonally from you and not overhead like that. You'll visually start seeing everything differently once you go past that Antarctic ice. So yes, I'm saying quite literally the sun would appear in a different location as soon as you went past that Antarctic ice, and as soon as you got past the dome, you'd still see the sun in the distance, you'd see it going the way it does, like horizontally over those mountains way in the distance that are like 2 billion miles out, and you see it going in that circle pretty much at a horizontal distance from you. And then the days would last a really long time for you, and then the nights would last a really long time too. See, that's how they experience day and night on the outer parts of Earth like that. Whereas we experience shorter days and nights because basically we're at the little mid part. So think about it. If you have a circle in the mid portion, so think about if you divide light in half and it's spinning around in circles like this all the time, the mid parts are going to be experiencing more frequent changes from the light today because it's spinning so fast. So the center part, the days and nights are going to be shorter, right? The farther you out, the days and nights are going to be somewhat longer because you're dealing with that wider frame of the sunlight. Therefore, their lifespans are longer, everything else. They experience time differently outside of this little part of Earth. Pretty much everywhere else in the cosmos, the people are immortal aside from dying in combat or having like a set lifespan. Like, okay, at 100,000 years you'll die at that point, and then you'll just leave your body. That's pretty much how it's set up for mostly everybody else in the universe aside from this little part of Earth. This little tiny part of Earth is the only place that we have these cycles of being limited in our lifespans and things like that, where we die and experience the decay of the body stuff. Everywhere else is pretty much complete paradise, to where most people who didn't know better would mistake that the lands beyond the Antarctic ice were heavenly paradises. Well, compared to Earth, they are, but compared to actual transcendence or paradise, they aren't. So a lot of people would get distracted thinking, oh my God, this is paradise, when actually real paradise is beyond this world altogether. Then the people outside, they're also going to be chanting Krishna's names and glorifying him and stuff too. So that's what people will run into when they go past that. Let's see, if the macrocosm reflects the microcosm and the round Earth heliocentric model reflects the atomic model, how would the flat Earth heliocentric model transform the atomic model? Wonderful question. Very intelligent. I like that. Are our bodies completely solid? Do we have a frame, blood, organs, all encased in our auric bodies? Well, here's how it works. The macrocosm does reflect the microcosm, but it's not in the way that so what I'm saying is, because the universal shape is flat like that and structured that way, that doesn't mean that atoms and molecules have to be themselves structured that way. But here's the thing, here's what's interesting. This will confirm to people, and they will see that actually at the subatomic level, things are structured very much so in alignment with how the universe is structured like that, very much more similarly. But the point being is this: the connection between those things is, in other words, how things are connected. It doesn't mean that the shape of one thing has to be the shape of another thing, is what I'm saying. So because the Earth plane is flat, it doesn't mean that the subatomic molecules themselves have to also be flat and shaped like flat universes with a flat plane in the middle, a heavenly on the bottom of the thing. It doesn't mean that molecules have themselves be shaped that way. But it is going to affect the atomic model, because people are now going to go to the Vedic understanding of the atomic model, which is, everybody knows about the quote-unquote Platonic solids. They're not actually the Platonic solids. They're actually the Vedic geometric structures, the 5 elements. So the original 5 elements, earth, water, fire, air, and ether, are actually, they manifest in matter in those 5 geometric shapes, which then combine, and this actually is happening right now, yes, but those shapes actually do combine to make what we know as the periodic table of elements. That name is misleading for that table. They should call it the periodic table of the 5 combined elements. That's what they should call it. But they call it the periodic table of elements because the Satanic groups and the Rakshasas, they don't want the actual science of molecules to be mainstream. What they want they want people to still keep thinking that the periodic table itself are the actual atoms at the smallest level. When smaller than the atoms, you actually have the geometric shapes that combine together to make the different atoms combinations, which are the dodecahedron is for ether, for fire it's that triangle shape. I'm trying to remember what the names of them are. They're different hedrons basically. So you have the cube for Earth. The cube is for the Earth shape, which is why the cube's associated with Saturn, Earth, etc. And then all these different things. So the different shapes, and they're all based. All of those shapes are based off of the pentagram, and that is what the old sciences in ancient Greece are based on. So no matter how many times it seems like people keep forgetting this. I don't know why people keep forgetting this, but I keep relaying this over and over. I said the Vedic sages and the Greeks who got their knowledge from them, they understood that the elements were referring to those 5 geometric shapes and structures and the movements of consciousness which lead to those 5 geometric shapes and structures. They didn't, when they said water, earth, air, and fire, they weren't thinking in their heads air that I look up at in the sky, fire that I see physical flames in. No, they understood that those were simply combinations of the 5 elements, and that the fire you see with your eyes is simply predominantly the fire, that original Platonic solid. The fire element is mostly in the physical fire you see. The water element is mostly in the water you see. The air element is mostly in space. It's mostly the space element. Things like that. But they weren't stupid. They didn't look at it. Okay, that this outer space itself, as in actual space, is the element of ether. No, it's like the element of space is mostly what predominates space. And then, you know what I mean? That's how they saw it. And then the element of earth is mostly what predominates in rocks, in physical, solid things like that, in the actual earth, the dirt and stuff. So, but modern people, they keep getting misled, see, by these demonic teachers. They're trying to convince the modern people that, oh, these Greeks and these Vedic people, when they said earth, water, air, fire, and ether, they were talking about the stuff they could see with their eyes. So, oh, look, see, their science is more primitive because they were talking about fire they could see with their visual eyes and the sky with their visual eyes. That's not what they were talking about. But now, see, what's really interesting is you're seeing the people who were previously teaching that, they're now going completely dead silent. Because now the truth of this is being brought out, whereas these older philosophers and stuff, they knew that they were talking about the solids that create those elements that you visually see. But they were talking about the subatomic level of things. Modern. So now this is going on with everything too. This is what's disproving macroevolution. It's what's disproving all these other things. And what about the Chinese system of elements of fire, wood, metal, earth, water? Would it work the same way still as the fire, earth, water, air spirit system? Yeah, basically in Wicca and in the Chinese stuff, because they kind of forgot this a little bit, the details of this point, they basically, instead of maintaining the original Vedic version, which was space, it's not like spirit. It's specifically space. And in Wicca, they shifted it over to earth, water, air, and spirit, where they got rid of the space. But basically, those two were actually slight mistakes on their parts, on the Chinese and the Wicca system, where they, instead of having space, because it is actually referring to space. Spirit is distinct from space. So that is the one thing that kind of bugged me about. I was always trying to bring up to other Wiccans and stuff. I was like, this really should have been adjusted to where you have earth, fire, water, air, space, and then spirit in the center of the pentagram is a distinct thing. That's how it's supposed to be. And this is actually why ether, well, here's the thing. Ether is the, explain this in a way that makes sense. They refer to it as ether in the past. That's the modern word for it. There's actually a different Sanskrit word that is more specific. The modern concept of ether is different from what the actual ancients were talking about regarding ether. Different things. So the actual ancient understanding of what ether was is the core dodecahedron shape and geometric structure that is at the sub-subatomic level, which is the cause of the space element, and which is what predominates in the darkness of what we know as space beyond the sky. When they said ether, that's what they were talking about. They were talking about that core shape and structure. Okay, they weren't even, like I said, and they recognized that space was mostly space, but that there was still actual earth, water, fire in space also, just in very small amounts. You know what I mean? Whereas in earth, like if you're physically digging in the dirt, space is there, air is there, water is there, fire is there. The elements are there, but it's mostly you're dealing with earth element itself. And then the other elements are just in between that, basically, interacting with that and stuff. Same thing, same thing with fire, water, everything else. It's just the predominant element is what you're predominantly seeing. So basically, it's kind of like copper and brass. It's like, you have copper initially, and then depending on what you combine it with, that's what the color turns out to be, and that's what the metal turns out to be. It's kind of like that with the 5 elements. It's like, okay, whatever ratio you have, that's the predominance of that element you're going to see visually in front of you. So if you have more water, you're going to see something that's liquid in nature. If you have more air, you're going to see something that's gaseous or fumous in nature. If you have more fire, you're going to see something that's combusting in nature, or something like that, or jolting or electric in nature. If you have more space, you're going to see something that's more spacey. That's where you don't really see anything there. So yeah, it's pretty funny how it actually works. It's interesting. It's simple, but it's so it is going to change the molecular sciences and upgrade them. Now check this out. What we always keep talking about. This is going to lead people also to the pentagram, and the pentagram comes from what? Like we always keep saying. It comes from the 108 gopis of the rasa dance circle, them dancing together, and then the 5 rasas, the 5 eternal relationships, are what caused the 5 platonic solids to manifest in the temporal world. So then people are going to see that and they're going to be like, holy crap. So the flat earth connection to Sri Radha, that's a connection to her. The molecular sciences now make sense because they're based off of Goloka Vrindavana and how Goloka is moving this world. So then the molecular sciences are going to start making sense to everybody, and that'll be simpler to understand. And now people are going to understand what those elements actually are. And then all of these things, it's going to be connected. So it's like that's why the Wiccas use the pentagram as their symbol, because the pentagram is the baseline shape and structure which causes the other 5 elements to manifest. This basically works like this. The pentagram is the visual drawn on paper, flat plane version of the face-to-face formful interactions we're having with Radha and Krishna in Goloka. And then the 5 platonic solids, as they're drawn on paper in those 3-dimensional shapes based off of that pentagram shape, are the permutations and combinations of our relationship with Radha and Krishna in those 5 relationships, manifesting through the temporal in the form of visual, physical things we then see and interact with, unique for each person's genetic structure. So a person's genetic structure and what the bodies they enter into are connected to their relationship dynamic with Radha and Krishna real time, and how they're going about that relationship dynamic. And that manifests in the perversion externally that way. And that's how the subatomic molecules work, and sciences, etc. So it's the space that differentiates each element and element combination from each other. It's what caused our world to have its infinite variety of uniqueness. Let's see. It's cool. Make a cool oil painting. Yeah, exactly. So, no, it's not the space itself that differentiates each element in element combination, because space itself is one of those elements, one of the 5. Space is within one of those 5. It's the It's the actual spirit, the transcendence, that differentiates each element and element combination from each other. So what's going to happen is people are going to now understand, they're going to understand the Goloka sciences as being the source, cause of, and what's moving the material sciences. So it's going to be like, they're going to be talking about, the discussions are then going to shift into Radha and Krishna's pastimes, their formful interactions, and that is what people are going to now see and understand is what is happening on the subatomic level. It's Goloka Vrindavana, it's their pastimes, and that's what's manifesting as these elements being so-called these elements and things like that. And the people are going to visually, internally see it that way, and it's going to change everything. It's going to change everything in terms of teaching, in terms of, it's going to be amazing actually. Because remember, Goloka Vrindavana is smaller than the smallest. So eventually you get to a point where you get so small that you get to Goloka Vrindavana, which is beyond space and time. And then if you go the other direction, larger than the largest, you get to Goloka Vrindavana 333, which equals 9. Radha Krishna Jivatma, Radha Krishna Lord Chaitanya, and Radha Krishna, us, and other living beings all united together. 9. There you go. Which is why 0 to 9 is the divine system. 0 to 9, this number system is divine. Remember that. And then 5 times 2 equals 10. Always remember this together, because it's based off the pentagram, based off the 5 relationships with Radha and Krishna. That's why. So it's all relationships. So every relationships are the deepest reality. So it's not that relationships come from another reality. Relationships are the deepest reality. In terms of what I mean by that is, and I'm saying this to devotees who should know this already by now, and I'm sure you know this, Presley, as well by now, that when I say relationships with Radha and Krishna face to face are the reality. Not just relationships as a general concept, but that specifically is the deepest reality. Our relationships with them are the deepest truth. Yep. So how do we perceive space and nature? Like how we do with fire, air, water, and earth. Good, very good question. Well, space is the okay, I see what you meant. Yes. So space is what differentiates each element. Yes, space is what differentiates each of the other 4 elements. Yes, that's what you meant to say. But since you didn't type those words, okay, that's what you meant. So yes, what you said was correct and accurate. I thought you meant space being a differentiating force altogether for all the elements. But no, yes, space is what differentiates between the other 4 elements. Correct. Aside from itself. So from earth, fire, water, and air. Yes, correct. Space is what differentiates those from each other, and the gaps between them, etc., are filled with that element of space, ether. Yep. So, yeah, this is really cool, because that's actually how then the periodic table is manifest. And there's actually a guy. Let's see if I can find the diagram again. I have a whole stack of papers worth listed of it, but basically you'll realize the more you go into this, you're able to simplify it more and more and more and more. And basically it's just really all the detailed sciencey stuff is just to show people who are trapped in the intellect how this stuff works. Whereas if you just see Radha and Krishna's forms, you just intuitively grasp how stuff works and don't need all the diagrams and details. But there are diagrams that exist that show how the different elements on the spiral thing, once again that sine wave thing, are connected to the various combined elements on the periodic table of elements. To where you have the dodecahedron, the space elements connected more with certain elements on that list, the fire elements connected more with others, and things like that in terms of ratios and whatnot. So the science is in, it's there. It's just basically needing to become mainstream. It's just being suppressed like all the other ones right now. See, here's the thing with the demonic agenda. It's not that they don't want this knowledge to become mainstream, they do, but they want to do it, they want the knowledge to become mainstream according to a time scale that they themselves set up. That's the problem. So basically they want to control the time scale of how things get revealed and when things get revealed so that they can then do the next one up on people in terms of their next agenda, their next deceit, and so on, things like this. That's how the demonic pretty much are thinking about it, because they know this stuff's going to be revealed and that's their plan, but they're trying to reveal it according to how they want it revealed instead of some rogue person like me or you or whatever revealing it separate from how they want it revealed. You know what I mean? That's what's going on. So you can see this actually. There's a controlled revealing of things as time goes on. There's very much a calculated, controlled revealing. Okay, we're going to let this be revealed at this time, then we're going to let this, and then it just becomes the next trend. like the flat earth trend and then this trend and then that trend. They just become these trends of truther stuff, but they're always these trendy things. They're not actually and they're people stopping short at different levels. They're not actually awakening people's relationships with Radha and Krishna. They're just stopping them short at different levels. Okay, truth up to this point, truth up to this point, up to this point, stuff like that. And yeah, so I'll bid you a fond farewell. There's a bunch of other things I need to get accomplished today, but I very much enjoyed this conversation because I wanted to get this stuff recorded in video so people see it, so they understand where I'm coming from on all this. And I'll end this with: don't accept the mark under any justification, no matter what. Whatever it takes, resist it for you and your children. Don't accept the mark in your forehead in either the barcode form, tattoo form, and also do not accept it in your hand, either as an assertion or a barcode tattoo. Do not voluntarily accept it or agree to it, and do not justify accepting it either due to being forced to having to accept it. Don't accept it on any subconscious level whatsoever inside yourself at all, ever. Resist it with every ounce of breath you have, and by doing so you will remain able to resist that current, and you'll be able to fight with us and resist the demonic agenda, and we will be able to defeat them that much quicker, that much sooner, and bring in the 1,000 years that much faster. So the more of us are on the same page in being united and in agreement in not accepting that mark, that stronger we will become, and the more forces we will gather before that starts getting imposed on the world. And the sooner we will have our systems set up, which are operating independently of theirs. Okay? So, Hare Krishna, and may you all have daily wonderful, uplifting inspirations, creativity, intuition, in ways that allow you to express your eternally unique individuality to the world, to yourself, and to awaken in yourself who you eternally are in your relationship with Radha and Krishna, who are in front of you 24/7, all day, every day, smiling upon you with loving grace and affection. Hare Krishna, Hare Bol. I will see you all, my friends, and we continue on. Together we roll.